Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am your handsome host, the NFL genius, Gene Walzek, and in my upper left corner, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
Gentlemen, it is that time of the year. I get to don the nickname again. Hopefully this time, March Madness can fall my way. It hasn't in a long time. I think it's been since Baylor won, but I'm ready to get back after it.
Guaranteeing victory this year. I'm putting it out there. I'm guaranteeing victory. The bracket will be up. Brackets will be $10. We're giving away a pair of AirPod Pros. As long as you download 10 episodes and subscribe to the YouTube station, you can win a pair of AirPod Pros. Or if you're an Android guy, you can get, whatever Samsung or Beats Buds that you want. That's what we're doing this year for brackets. They're only going to cost $10. Get in where you fit in. Upper right corner. Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. Willie Shallcross, Willie Beeman.
Stephen Willie Beeman. What's up, gentlemen? How is everyone? It's baseball season.
Bro.
Feels like baseball today, folks.
It does. I am
baseball.
I'm struggling. I'm struggling. If you're asking how I'm doing, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with an illness, but I play hurt.
Gene's got the shits.
Yeah, whoa! The stomach illness that's going around. Stomach illness is crazy.
All jokes aside, I feel awful for you because it is the worst feeling in the world when you just constantly have to go to the bathroom.
Bro, norovirus, whatever it is, I have norovirus. You guys want to know what I'm dealing with right now? That's all right. We got a jam-packed show to get into tonight. We got UFC recap. We have our West bracket for sports characters. We have our shortstops list. We have friggin' college basketball conference tourneys. We have our linebackers list. I mean, we got so much to get into, but where do we have to start? We got to start with free agency. We got to start what's going on in the NFL. And there's a lot of moves that happened, right? I thought it was very odd that like the first move of free agency was DeAndre Swift signing with like the Chicago Bears for $24 million. But it almost makes me feel so much better about the Saquon Barkley deal to Philadelphia. I would take Saquon for $5 million more a year than DeAndre Swift. Anyway, you slice that, right? I did find it very interesting, Tiki Barber's comments about Saquon Barkley. I feel like that if the Giants didn't want him to go to the Eagles, they just had to pay him. And to find out that they didn't even offer him a contract, that's kind of even like, what did you want him to do? Just wait for another team to pay him less money? I don't get that. But there was a lot of moves that happened, and one of them that left me weeping. I was crying. I was in tears. It broke my heart. Kirk Cousins signed with the Atlanta Falcons. Man, Kirk Cousins has got a hell of an agent. That guy is raking in dough, guaranteed money galore. Kirk, for being a mediocre quarterback, Kirk Cousins is doing good things, bro. I think he's like the modern day Sam Bradford. He's obviously better than Sam Bradford, but you kept seeing the contracts that Sam Bradford would get, and you're like, the hell? You get another $100 million contract? Kirk Cousins just secured the bag in Atlanta. Do we think that's a good move or a bad move? Do you think that I guess I'm asking for my own selfish reasons, but like, do you not think that they would have been better off trading for Justin Fields and having that contract versus paying Kirk Cousins all they paid him?
I think in the short term, I get it. I think the next 2 or 3 years, I think they feel like with Pitts in London, and then they went out and signed Mooney, and then obviously with Bijan in the backfield, that they feel like the defense, I think, played a lot better than people realized last year. I think they feel like they can make a legit run at the division right now. I'm not saying you could have done that with Justin Fields. I think if you're trading for Justin Fields, obviously you're giving up draft capital that maybe you didn't want to. I mean, we really don't know what the actual asking price was. But I think where they missed the boat a little bit is Justin's 25, I think, somewhere in there. So he's potentially the guy that you turn into, your next Matt Ryan. He's there for the next 10 to 12 years, and you're building your franchise around him and Bijan and all those guys. So short term, I get it. I think they're in more of a win now mode. Kirk Cousins is obviously very familiar with the system they're going to run there. I mean, listen, man, we give him a lot of flack. I don't think he's mediocre. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's not elite, but he's good. I mean, I think that team is going to be much improved, and they decided to go with the sure thing versus maybe possibly kind of going through, another mediocre year next year and, kind of going a year further out in the window. So that's the decision they made.
I know I'm annoying about this, but like, wouldn't the definition of mediocre be an 11 through 19 quarterback? Like top 10 would be elite and good. 11 through 19 would be middle of the pack, 20 through 30. Like, wouldn't that be the definition of mediocre?
No.
Okay.
I think you're lining it up on the scale like that, but I mean, you have to look at it individually what he does. Like, he's a good quarterback. You can't deny the number. Like, are you going to say he's a good postseason quarterback? No, I would say he's below average as a postseason quarterback. But the numbers he puts up and the way he plays, and you slice it any way you want. The guy does what he's supposed to do. Again, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Joe Burrow. He's none of those guys. But he's not mediocre either.
Okay, Control. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do this to you. We're gonna play a game of Kirk Cousins or. That's what I want to do right now. Kirk Cousins or, right? And just want to figure out. So, like, we'll eliminate. Obviously, we're not going to say Kirk Cousins or Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, all those guys, Lamar Jackson. Kirk Cousins is not in their league, right? So we'll eliminate those guys up near the top. All right, so we'll start with Jalen Hurts. Kirk Cousins or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen.
Okay. All right, Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff?
Jared.
Goff.
Okay. Kirk Cousins or Tua Tagovailoa? I'm trying to go down the list. I'm trying to get like Kirk involved. I still go Tua here.
Personally, I think that's probably where he's. I mean, I think Tua is better, but I think that's the territory that he's in.
Okay. Where are you at? Do you have Tua or Kirk? I think Charlie's going to go Kirk. Yeah. Kirk Cousins or Dak?
Don't even ask me this.
I'll take Dak.
I'll take Dak.
Okay. But like, if you put them on a blind piece of paper, they're literally the same person.
I don't disagree with that. I think Dak's just a shade better. I think they're the same person, but Dak can scramble a little bit more.
I think Dak's played with superior talent and done less. So I'll take Kirk Cousins.
Okay, that's fair. Kirk Cousins, and we're gonna start getting into nitty gritty here. Like, we're gonna start getting in the middle. Kirk Cousins, I'm gonna get Control a little fired up here. For Deshaun Watson.
I'm taking Deshaun.
Like pre-rape Deshaun, I would take.
No, right now.
Post grabby hands Deshaun. I don't know. I might take Kirk.
I think I'm taking Kirk here too. I think it's very close though. Kirk Cousins or Brock Purdy?
I'm taking Purdy.
I'm taking Kirk.
Okay. See, like, now I can see the scale. Shally thinks he's top 10 quarterbacks.
I think he's around their cusp. I said he's good.
That's fair. I think he's 13 to 15, which is, I would call that mediocre. Control thinks he's 16 through 18. Like, I'm right here, right? Am I right?
I mean, I'd say he's just a middle of the pack quarterback. Like,
so here's the fun question. Kirk Cousins, right now, going forward, Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields?
I take Justin.
I would take Justin too. Justin Fields is about to be a backup quarterback this year.
I don't think so either. I would take Justin because I'd want the longevity in my back pocket.
Okay. I'll do two more and we'll call it a rest of the day. But all right, Kirk Cousins or, I mean, this one should be pretty interesting. Right now, Aaron Rodgers.
For how long?
Going forward.
Aaron's
got what? A year or two?
I'll take Aaron.
Okay.
I know I'm not winning the Super Bowl with Kirk. If all things align right with Aaron, I could potentially win one with him. So I'll take Aaron.
I really think it's a flip of a coin. I mean, is Aaron going to stay on the field? I would say with those skill position players, I would probably take Aaron.
Okay. And then the last one, and this might be the most controversial one, But Kirk Cousins or Caleb Williams?
Take Caleb.
For
Like, no questions.
are we saying for next year?
Going forward, starting next year. You have a franchise, you get to choose. You want Kirk Cousins
I would say
or Caleb?
Kirk's deal's 4 years, so let's say the next 4 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, the first 2 years are going to be lopsided, but it's a matter of how fast he catches up. Because that's where it gets interesting. It's what
I lied. I'm doing another one too. Kirk Cousins or Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor.
Again, I'm taking Trevor just because of the longevity I can put in my back pocket. He's got another 12 years at least to play.
All right. Well, that's kind of what we have. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. A lot of people feel like the Philadelphia Eagles might have overpaid for him. I think the 3-year deal is ideal for Philadelphia. You're not paying him into his 30s. You're getting him from 26 to 29. Your thoughts on the deal for Saquon Barkley to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Love the deal. I know. Listen, I was a big DeAndre Swift fan, and I thought what we got from him. I'll be personally honest. I think we underutilized him last year, and a lot of that goes back to play calling and Jalen keeping the ball sometimes too much and so forth and so on. But I thought that's what we were going to get from DeAndre Swift last year. Like, that's what he's capable of when he's healthy. We all saw that in Detroit 2 years ago. Saquon's a different animal though. He is. You look at the numbers he puts up on a terrible Giants team. He is, when he's healthy, he's elite. He's top. I don't think you can put him any lower than 4 in the league if you're being honest. He's going to play behind a very good offensive line with weapons both on the outside and Jalen Hurts under center. I think it's a great signing. I think it was something that kind of came out of nowhere. Again, you got to give Howie his flowers. Apparently he was, one of the top targets right from the get-go, and that was how they started their day, making sure they got him. And and I agree with Gene. I think you're getting 26 to 29. It's a 3-year deal. You're in a 3-year window right here, with AJ, and they got to re-sign Devontae soon. But with the team they have right now, that's kind of the window they're in. It fits in there perfectly. Maybe you overpaid a little bit for it, but again, for a guy that I don't think has really ever had a chance to really show what he can do in the NFL on a good team behind a good line, I think it's a steal. I think you can walk away after 3 years and it's no harm, no foul. So I love it. I'm excited. I think it puts, I heard a lot of people talking about it today, and I tend to agree. I think it puts a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts next year. I really do. There's no excuses. There's no excuses for him next year. He's going to have Kellen Moore at his OC. He's got to make the right reads. He's got to hand the ball off. He's got to be good to go and hit the ground running next year. But that offense is stacked. So, again, as a fan, like Gene said, I can't be more excited than I am right now.
Okay. What's your thoughts on it, Cottrell?
I would say for me, the one thing is, you talk about people being upset that you potentially overpaid for him. My question would be to them, where else would you have spent that money? Philadelphia could use another linebacker. Like I've been saying that from the jump, but you went out, you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back on the team. Like, that fills a hole that you had at safety. He knows the scheme already, and he knows the fans there and the culture, the guys in the locker room. So, like, he'll fit like a glove there. And then you go get the best running back free agent in the class. So, like, I just don't know where else you would have to spend that money. This is a luxury
corner. That would be the answer.
Yeah, but right now, who's on the scene? Who are you spending that money to go get? Like 36 used on Saquon. Who are you putting that? Who are you overpaying to do that to?
Nobody. And I agree with the signing. I'm just saying that you're asking where they need to upgrade the most, and it's getting rid of James Bradbury and putting that money in corner.
And that's fine, but I was going to say, with Howie and the way that he's been drafting as well, he's been utilizing his picks to bring in top talent. And where you guys are sitting right now in the draft, you're going to be able to get a cornerback that is going to be able to play right away for you guys, whether that be a Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean. Like, you'll be able to get a corner in this class where you are. And on the flip side of that, even if you want to move up to try and get the top guy like Terrion Arnold, you could, Howie's no virgin to trading picks in the draft to making sure that he gets his guys. So I would say the Saquon move made a lot of sense, especially after losing Swift. And the other thing about it is, Bill, you talked about his injury history and things like that and not being with a good team. We know the Eagles are going to make sure they keep him healthy because regardless of whether it's Saquon, you saw with Swift last year, Gainwell's going to get his touches here and there. They're going to probably have a third running back that gets those touches here and there as well. It's just one of those things that they're going to do. I mean, if you're having success with it, why not try to keep Saquon fresh throughout the season?
But part of that, I think, is what you could argue when they went back last year and they put themselves in a corner, because if it was 3rd and 3 and Gainwell's on the field, everybody knew they were throwing the ball. And it was stuff like that and that's stuff that they have to get away from.
I agree. I agree.
And listen, I think with DeAndre Swift, as good as he is, I think it's still a little bit of a different situation. Saquon is a bell cow type guy. Like he's a Derrick Henry type guy. I'm not saying you give him 30 carries every game, like Tennessee did with Derrick Henry, but Saquon's got to touch the ball 20 times a game. He's got to be Christian McCaffrey for this team next year. It takes pressure off Jalen. It keeps Jalen upright. It keeps him healthy. And they have the line where he can run the ball, and we don't have to run RPO all the time. So I disagree slightly because I think you will see it change a little bit next year. I think he's going to get 20 carries a game. I mean, you don't go out and sign him and spend the money if you're not going to give him the ball.
I agree 100% with that. I better not see 6 carries to Gainwell, 5 carries to Boston Scott, and 14 to Saquon Barkley, because I'll lose my damn mind. I'll lose it.
Same.
You may not see 14. I'm just saying that Saquon isn't going to have to go be Superman every single game like how he was with the Giants in the receiving game and rushing, him having 30 carries or 5 catches, things like that. I just think the Eagles backups are going to have.
Do you know the stat that stood out to me the most, Cottrell? This is a wild stat. Do you know the Giants seen the most 8-man boxes in the whole NFL last year?
Doesn't surprise me at all. They don't have any receivers and they didn't have a quarterback.
The Eagles seen the third least. He's going to see 8-man boxes so little in Philadelphia because of the outside with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They added Devontae Parker, who I think is a very good third option.
Steal.
Yeah, 100% steal. And New England's paying them more money than Philadelphia is.
Yeah, correct.
But I don't want to – this is not all Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk about full NFL tomorrow on Sideline to Sideline. I do have to move on to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry signed with the Baltimore Ravens. And you guys asked this question before, and I'm going to answer it again. I think it's a bad fit. And I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it again. I feel like the Derrick Henry fit in Baltimore is like the Marco Murray in Philadelphia. The system is just not for him. If you watch what they do in Tennessee, he lines up 6 to 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage to get his legs moving. When you're running him in constant read options, I think that's not the best for him. And I think that they're going to really have to adjust their offensive scheme. Now, look, obviously adding Derrick Henry is never going to make your team worse. I just thought that Keaton Mitchell was a better overall option for what they're going to do at the running back position. Now, I get it. You're not going to make Keaton Mitchell your bell cow back, but I wouldn't have went out and spent $13 million on, or whatever they spent, $12 million on Derrick Henry.
So I guess the way I look at it, I was going to say the way I look at it is essentially what they're going to bring Derrick Henry in to do. I don't think this is going to be the same Derrick Henry from Tennessee that you're looking at getting 25 to 30 carries a game. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he's really just going to be an upgraded version of what Gus Edwards was for them, a back to come in, be physical. They put him in on the goal line. Like, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure Gus Edwards had over 10 touchdowns last year, a lot of those being within the red zone. And so I think Derrick Henry's a guy who's going to be a power back and a good change of pace back from Keaton Mitchell. So I do think, Keaton gives them a better fit for their offense. He can catch it out the backfield. And, obviously he has a ton of speed there. But I think with Derrick Henry as well, this gives them that power back where you don't necessarily just want to put the ball in Lamar's hands on 4th and 1 or things like that. You can give it to Derrick Henry and trust that he's going to go just drag a couple defenders with him to get that 1 yard. Like, I don't see it being a perfect fit, but I just really seeing him being an extension of what Gus Edwards' role was last year, and we saw him be successful in that role.
I'm gonna double back even further. If you look at the way they ran the offense 3 years ago when Dobbins was healthy, they were very successful, and they didn't run a ton out of pistol or out of shotgun. They would line him up single back. I think you'll see more of that this year. I agree with Cottrell too, and I think the days of him getting 28 touches a week are over. I don't think they want to do that. I think it is, use Mitchell as, a change of pace back. You can run him out of, kind of like out of sequence, sets. You can run him out of the pistol because he's quick. But I think Derrick Henry will get 20 carries a week, and I think that's exactly what they want him to do. I think he'll be physical. He'll wear people down. He'll take a little pressure off Lamar too, and not have them run as much. And I think that offense, I think you wouldn't say it got more explosive or anything like that. Like, I agree with both you guys on that, but I think it helps them become more balanced, which I think in the long run helps Lamar a lot. And also, probably keeps Lamar more healthy and on his feet as well. So I think it's a good signing. I think it's a good fit for them. I really do.
Yeah, Zach, we're going to get into that right now, actually. I want to ask you guys a team that you felt like is doing a very poor job in free agency, or a team that you feel like is doing a very good job in free agency so far. And I would love to get your opinions on that. I'll start with a team that I think is doing a very poor job, and I think it's the Tennessee Titans. And I'm sorry, man, I don't want to be a Titans hater, but I felt like they overpaid for Calvin Ridley today. He got $92 million over 4 years for a guy that was not as good as Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. That was alarming to me. I don't think Tony Pollard's a great fit back there. They don't really have the best offensive line. They have Tajay Spears, so I'm guessing they're going to run like a back by committee. So they're spending money on that situation. I don't like the Tennessee Titans offseason as a whole. Not a fan of it. That will be where I start. And then, obviously you can always add in the Dallas Cowboys. They've literally signed a long snapper. That's it. Jerry Jones said, I'm going to go all in, and then didn't sign anyone. So what are teams that you felt like did a good job or a bad job in free agency, Cottrell?
So for me, I would say the one I think that's doing a bad job is pretty close to home for you guys. It's in your division. That's the Washington Commanders. They had the most money in terms of cap space going into this offseason, and they've signed a lot of just pieces, like a lot of depth pieces. I think Washington is in a spot where they have the number 2 overall pick. If they have a plan to try and trade up to get Caleb, or if Jaden or Drake's going to be their guy, they know they're going to have a rookie quarterback next year. Like, whatever way you slice it, they're going to be starting a rookie quarterback next year. And I feel like when you have this kind of money and you have quarterbacks on those rookie deals, this is the time where you try and overspend in free agency, even if you're overpaying guys. So I know you just let, Chase Young walk, and you got Montez Sweat out of town, but I would have tried to make some sort of splash to make it easier on whatever rookie quarterback you bring in, whether it be bringing in, a receiver, maybe even if it was overpaying Ridley. I wouldn't have gave him $90 million. I think that's just malpractice. But if it was getting a good running back, you'd lose Antonio Gibson, but why not get in on the Tony Pollard sweepstakes, or Derrick Henry or Saquon? Like, I would try to make moves that would make my job easier for my young rookie quarterback, and I just feel like they haven't done that. But a team that I think is absolutely killing it right now in free agency is the Houston Texans. Yep. Them going out, getting Danielle Hunter, adding him to that defensive line is going to be major. Making the trade to get Joe Mixon, getting him for essentially nothing, like that's an upgrade at running back over Devin Singletary, and that's going to make CJ's job a lot easier there. I think the Texans are realizing that, hey, we thought we were in a rebuild mode, but we can really be in a win now mode, and CJ is on a rookie deal, and we're going to go spend money and make his life a lot easier and make this team as competitive as possible.
Completely agree with you. The Texans were definitely one of my winners. Shally?
Yeah, I mean, Houston for sure. I mean, again, I agree with Cottrell. I think they're in a situation where I think they realized, like Cottrell just said, that they're way ahead of schedule. I thought they probably thought it was going to take CJ a year or two, and he is not going to have the growing pains as most rookie quarterbacks. The defense is just going to get better. Another year under D'Amico Ryans. I think they're the best. I think they're clear and above the best team in that division now. I think you have to give the Eagles credit. Not to be biased or anything like that. I think there was a couple like sneaky moves, that I think kind of got some pub, but probably not enough. I think Cleveland stealing Jerry Jeudy for nothing, I thought was a really good move and really didn't cost them any money. And if I say disappointed wise, I mean, I think I'd have to look at Miami at this point, to be honest. I think as good a year as they had and the guys they let walk, and they kind of brought in lesser versions to fill all the gaps with kind of, for less money, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to take a big step back next year. So Miami, I think, would be a team that hasn't been mentioned yet. That would be my loser.
Did I read that right? Did Jordan Poyer sign a 1-year, $2 million contract?
Something like that.
How does that happen?
I mean, I think his injury history is killing him. I think as good as a player as he is when he's on the field, he's very good. I mean, but he's missed significant amount of time, 3 seasons in a row.
I think the other thing too is that I don't know why, but this offseason, it seems like a lot of players are sticking in their division and trying to stick it to their former teams. I'm not saying that's what Jordan's trying to do here, but you got Patrick Queen going to the Steelers, obviously Saquon going over to the Eagles, and now you have, Poyer with the Dolphins. Like
Aaron
it just
Jones
seems like
Vikings.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of these guys are taking these shorter deals and they're staying in their conference. And they're like, hey, you guys didn't want to pay me. I'm going to show you why you should have. And I want to make sure your life's hell for at least 2 weeks out of the season next year.
Okay. Well, I don't think the Commanders did that bad of a job as like a lot of people think they did. I think Austin Eckler's coming there on a steal. I like the Tyler Badaz.
We said he stinks. We said he'd probably retire. That's
fair, but he's definitely a good pass protection back and is going to catch the ball out of the backfield. I like Jeremy Chin going over there. He's a very good safety. I think that I know what they're doing. Obviously I don't think they're doing a great job, but the Cleaton Farrell signing isn't bad either. They're replacing the edge rusher. He's not Montez Sweat or Chase Young, but we'll see.
We got breaking news too.
What's that?
Joe Flacco just signed with the Indianapolis Colts.
I don't care. We've passed up
comeback player of the year.
Good for him.
He'll be back up because Minshew went where to Raiders.
Minshew went to the Raiders, right?
Which is, I think that's where Justin's going to end up now.
He's going to compete for a starting job with Minshew.
Yeah,
it's interesting. All right, well, guys, we'll talk about more free agency next week as it wraps up. We want to get into our top 5 linebackers coming out of this draft. We've been hitting the draft hard. We have 5. Now we're just doing inside linebackers or 4-3 outside edge rushers will be next week. So if you don't see some big names on here, you know why. Who's going first? Chally.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
All right.
It's on the screen.
So I'm going to start with Jalen Ford, Texas. One of the more athletic guys on this list. He's gonna have to learn. He's got a lot of raw instincts. Feels the game kind of in a good way. It's what a lot of people you read about him. But he needs to be a little bit more cerebral. He gets caught in the wrong gap a lot. Kind of almost overruns a lot of plays. Not great in the pass play or in the pass game. Not yet anyway. He's probably going to project, probably be more of like a weak side guy in the NFL, but a guy that a lot of people are still very high on, because he is a good athlete. So I have a number 5. I think he's a decent ceiling. I think if he goes to the right system, and like I said, plays with guys with more experience where he's not really the focal point of a defense right away, I think he could be successful. Cedric Gray kind of falls in the same category. Probably not the athlete that Jalen Ford is, but a smarter linebacker, shall you say. Same kind of thing. Needs help in the pass game a little bit. Needs just more experience against it. Very good run stopper, but again, probably has limitations of what he can do athletically. But again, a smart guy that if surrounded around guys where he's not relied upon to probably blitz a lot or do certain things like that, he'll probably be a very solid middle linebacker in the NFL. Peyton Wilson, NC State, a guy that is, I've seen him at number 1 on people's list. I've seen him down at like number 9. People are kind of really divided all over him. Put up monster numbers at NC State. Smart kid, probably a little bit undersized. He's the smallest guy of the 5 that I have on here. So people aren't really sure how well he's going to hold up if he play in the middle of the NFL. So there's a little bit of doubts there, which I think causes him to kind of be all over people's list. But a very smart linebacker, very smart, reads things very well, reads the run game very well, and not awful against the pass. So I have him number 3. Number 2, I have Junior Colson from Michigan, my guy, probably the toughest guy, maybe one of the toughest kids in the draft. Played most of the year last year with a broken wrist on one hand and a broken hand on the other arm. Super good against the run. Pretty good against kind of like crossing routes, like zone stuff like that. He's going to struggle against man-to-man if he has to cover somebody out of the backfield. If he has responsibility on a running back, that's something he has to work on. Very good instincts, very good athlete, very good size, has long arms, prototypical to be kind of a run stopper in the NFL for 6 or 7 years in the middle linebacker position. Edgerrin Cooper, Texas A&M. I think for the most part is kind of in the consensus number 1 inside guy. Super good athlete. Can do everything pretty well. I don't think any of these guys are probably great prospects per se, but I think Edgerrin Cooper probably has the highest ceiling because of his athleticism. But again, he's the most comfortable against the pass out of these 5. But he probably needs to work on attacking the edge a little bit better, getting stuck in the wrong gap sometimes. But overall, I think he's the best prospect. He's the one that I think I'm most comfortable could probably come in and start on any defense in the league if they asked him to. So Edgerrin Cooper, A&M, that rounds out my top 5.
All righty.
All right, so I'm next here. Number 5 for me, got my guy, Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State. And Tommy's a guy who, if he didn't test at the combine because he's still been going through some injuries, but if he runs a sub 4.6, I think he's a guy that could potentially sneak up to 3 on my personal list. The biggest problem I have with Tommy is that he's just not a great athlete. He doesn't have the speed, but he's very smart in terms of how he plays football. He's going to fill gaps how he's supposed to. Does lack a little bit in the passing game. So I think this is a guy that, first and second down, you can see him on the field. Third down, he's going to be the linebacker that you get off the field. But I think he can bring a tenacity, and he can bring just a high level IQ to any team, especially a linebacker in the 3rd or 4th round. Number 4 for me, I got Junior Colson. A lot of what Bill said, I do agree with. I think Junior is great in zone coverage. He does have some physicality to him as well. And like you mentioned, he did play through injuries a lot this year. Biggest drawback for me on Junior is that I don't see him as a guy that's great necessarily sideline to sideline. So I don't see him moving on to the next level to be a middle linebacker. I think he's going to be more of an outside linebacker. Just give him a little bit less space to work with, and I think he'll be perfectly fine there. But ultimately, that's why I have him there at number 4. Number 3 for me, I have Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. Biggest thing with him is that he definitely plays with a tenacity. The problem with him, though, in my opinion, is that he's not consistent enough for me. It's almost like a will/want to for me. He has all the talent in the world to make the plays, but there's a lot of times that you see on film where, he doesn't block shed the way that you see him block shed in certain games and different things like that. So I think he's very talented, but that concerns me when I have to question some efforts sometimes defensively. Number 2, I got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. from Clemson. Don't let the name fool you. He's not here just because his dad was a great linebacker in the NFL. Jeremiah Trotter can play ball. And the only thing that I think ideally might slow him down is his size. He doesn't have your prototypical linebacker size, but when you watch Clemson and you watch their defense, he is a guy who is consistently making plays all over the field. And you could tell just by the way he looks and the way he finds the ball in certain spots that he comes from, a legacy of a guy who was in the NFL. And that film session at night, like you could tell that he understands the game of football. And so love Jeremiah Trotter Jr. as my number 2 prospect. And then number 1 for me is Peyton Wilson. Bill, I know you mentioned that, some people have him as high as 1. Other people are rather low on him. I think Peyton Wilson is an absolute freak. He's 6'4", and he runs a 4.4 40. He plays with a crazy tenacity. and you can see that on tape. He's always finding the football. I mean, this kid was up for the Buckets Award. It wasn't for no reason. He was always finding his way around the ball, and he was a very bright spot on that NC State defense. And I think he's going to be the first linebacker taken off the board here. And while I think these other linebackers can make, an impact on whatever team they get drafted to, I think Peyton Wilson is a guy that you can plug in and start right away. And for me, I think there is a little bit of a gap between 1 and then 2 through 5. But those are my 5 here, and I'll swing it over to Gina to wrap us up.
Sounds good. I got Cedric Gray, number 5. I think he's very good. He just needs to learn a little bit more in the pass coverage. I think he's aggressive. I love the way he plays football. But I think the other 4 guys are going to be starters day 1 or day 2. The 4 guys I have ahead of Cedric, there could have been a lot of guys I put 5 here. I think there's a gap between 5 and the top 4, if I'm just being honest with you. Junior Colson out of Michigan could be higher on this list, but I think the other 3 are just a little better. Guy's great in zone coverage. He can attack the football. Played for a hell of a head coach. Good system. He needs to go to the right system, in my personal opinion, but I think Junior Colson can be really good out of Michigan. I really struggle where to put Peyton Wilson because I've seen everything that Cottrell's seen. I think he's elite. He's in such a weird conference in the ACC where I feel like that there's some games where he plays where he looks like he's just the best athlete, bar none, on the field. And I don't necessarily think he's going to have that in the NFL. But I do think he's elite. He's fast speed, tall, strong, good instincts. There's not much bad I could say about Peyton Wilson. He is a dog, like Zach Weisinger said. Edgerrin Cooper is my number 2, and that's purely because I feel like he's super coachable. When you have all the athleticism in the world and you can be coachable in the NFL, I think that Edgerrin Cooper can go to a right defensive system. They tell him what to do on the play, and they coach him up. I think you can't teach athleticism, and I think he has the best athletics. And he played in a very strong conference against elite talent every game he played. And then for number 1, maybe it's a homer pick, maybe it's not. I love what Jeremiah Trotter Jr. did out of Clemson. He reminds me so much of his dad, the way he attacks the football and the way he attacks gaps. But the one thing he has that his dad never had was he has the ability to drop into zone coverage. He has the ability to drop and play the underneath routes, the drag routes, the crossers very well. I see a lot in him. And I texted Cottrell because I was putting a list together. And I'm like, hey, man, can you send me your list? Because, like, I have my list, but I just want to – I feel like I might have somebody way too high. And I think Cottrell had him too. I'm like, yep, I'm not changing what I think of him. I think he'll be an absolute stud at the next level. Can't wait to see what he does. Jeremiah Trotter is my number 1. There goes Cottrell, the old star of the show again. I'm just kidding with you. Next, we're going to recap some UFC. Next week we'll do edge rushers for college football. But
D-line. Well, edge and interior.
Edge and D-line, sorry. Yeah. We're going to do the whole defensive line / edge rush. Yeah, but you can say D-line, but there's not going to be one D lineman on the list. There'll be 5 edge rushers.
There'll be one on mine, for sure.
Okay, well, it might be 1 and then 4 edge rushers, but the edge rushers are head and shoulders above this class. So UFC pay-per-view, I was like just on the show, I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, talking about like I'm right a lot more than I'm wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong on this entire pay-per-view. I got a chance to watch it on Monday. I had to download it. I didn't get a chance to watch it Saturday. I got a chance to watch it Monday while I sat at the airport for hours. I was wrong about every fight outside of my guy Jack Maldonado, but I was wrong about every fight. And Dustin Poirier looks like he's primed. The nice knockout punch, and he took exception to Joe Rogan's comments saying he looked tired. He's like, I'm ready for 5 rounds. I asked for his fight to be 5 rounds because I am in shape. I don't get tired. He looked great. Nice landed that nice left hand. And then, listen, got to give him all the credit in the world. Sugar Show went out and dominated. And I was like, I don't know if he can win a 5-round decision versus Cheeto Vera, and I've never seen Cheeto knocked out. Sugar So dominated. It was not close. Cheeto got beat up in that fight, but didn't get knocked out. I felt like the card was good. I felt like it was entertaining. Sucks being wrong about everything, but it was a fun card to watch. Cottrell, I'm going to pass to you and tell me what you thought about the card. What do you think's next for some of these guys? Listen, no hate to Sean O'Malley, man. He's earned my respect. He's dominated. Even though I didn't agree with how he got there, his last 2 fights, he couldn't be more dominant. I do think it was a little strange at the end of the Sean O'Malley fight that he called out a different fighter that was not named Merab, when Merab is the #1 contender and he's the best fighter in the division. So I felt like that was interesting. Cottrell, your thoughts on the card itself and what's next for some of these fighters?
So I thought as a whole, the card itself definitely lived up to the billing. You know, you saw a lot of great fights on that card. You know, MVP making his debut, like that was exciting to watch him get in there with Kevin Holland and Gilbert Barnes. He looked great against Jack Della, but you know, 2 minutes left in that fight, Jack caught him and you know ultimately finished him. So don't know where Gilbert Burns is headed, but just up the line here and going to the co-main. I thought Dustin looked great in that fight. The one thing that confused me was him jumping guillotine every single opportunity possible. Was like the weirdest thing ever. Clearly it wasn't working, and even right before the knockout happened, you saw him try to jump guillotine, and you know ultimately he still got the TKO there. Weird game plan going in, but he looked as dominant as ever, and I think I don't think he's necessarily in the title picture per se right now, but I think he's submitted his stake being the number 2, number 3 ranked guy in that division, and potentially maybe 2 fights down the line being next up for a title shot. Like I don't think he has anything left to really prove. It's just that the guys in front of him that have been doing that have probably already beat him or are the up and coming guys like Charles and Arman Sarukian. When they fight at 300, like I'd imagine the winner of that fight gets to see Islam next, no matter what.
Loser of that fight should fight Dustin.
That would be great. But then you also the flip side of that too, though, I would also think that Justin Gaethje hasn't fought Islam yet. Justin Gaethje did lose to Khabib, and I get that, but like outside of that, I think Justin Gaethje is a guy who would be next in line after Arman or Charles. But then after that, I think if Dustin goes out and he beats a Arman or Charles and then potentially just one other fighter, I think he would be the guy that's next in line for that title shot. And then going to the main event, I think the one thing that I kind of didn't give credence to is that, yes, Cheeto got this title shot because of his win earlier against Sean O'Malley. But if we really go back and look at what Cheeto has done his past few fights, Cheeto wasn't the most deserving fighter for that card. And that's okay. Dana gave us what we wanted to see. We wanted to see what Sean would really look like in a full fight without an injury and things like that. But we talk about Merab. Merab obviously hadn't fought for the title because he didn't want to fight Aljo. And then you do have other guys in that division as well. Corey Sandhagen's a guy who's been, on a win streak as well. But Cheeto was the guy that everybody loves the redemption story. So it makes sense why we got it. But Sean O'Malley went in there and did exactly what he was supposed to do. Sean O'Malley is a high-level striker. And if you allow him to just pick you apart and really just kickbox you for 5 rounds, that's what that fight should look like. Cheeto never gave any threats of going to the ground, anything like that. And Sean's very comfortable with that. So I would say Sean did a great job of sticking to his game plan and that kind of thing. And the only other thing I'll mention with Cheeto, he is tough as hell because in that second round, that knee puts out 95% of fighters in that division. Like most people are on the ground. That's the fight. But Cheeto just took it like a champ and kept it moving. So give him credit for that. What I think is next for O'Malley has to be Merab. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You even heard him say, I know he did call out Ilya. Everyone wants to go be the double champ. but he slid it in thereafter. And if I don't get Ilya, then Merab, we can run it whenever. So he did slide it in there. I think Dana knows that Merab has to be up next. Merab's in Dana's doghouse for not wanting to go fight his friend, but we all know he deserves the next title shot.
Shai, what are your thoughts on the card?
No, I mean, so listen, we sat here last week and we kind of talked about Dustin as kind of like, just proverbial like career crossroads. You know what I mean? If he won, then we could see him going on to bigger things. If he lost, maybe it was time to just leave the gloves in the cage. But I think he looked great. I mean, I think he kind of looked like old, sharp Dustin. Dustin sometimes has the reputation of starting slow, and I thought he came out, he looked crisp. I was actually surprised, as one-sided as that fight was. The guillotine stuff was kind of fun. I did hear him say in one of his interviews that it was something they saw on tape that, he kind of left his neck out there a lot, and they just constantly wanted to give him something to think about and maybe slow him down a little bit. So I think there was something to that, just the way they prepared for the fight and, in training camp. But yeah, I mean, I think Dustin could fight a bunch of guys, I mean, we're not going to see Gaethje, but there was talk of Max staying at 155 and those two fight for the BMF belt, which I think in the short term kind of makes sense. Because like Cottrell said, he's not going to be in the title picture for another fight or two. And you have to have Islam and Charles fight first and kind of see where that settles out. So I think he has a lot of options, but I mean, I think he's a guy that, a lot of people like watching, and he's usually in pretty exciting fights. So for him to get a knockout was good for him. So, I mean, he'll be around for a while longer now. And O'Malley, I just agree with both you guys. You got to tip your cap. He's a guy that I thought as he started to, step up in competition, I thought would kind of come back to the pack a little bit. And it's been, the exact opposite, actually. Like Gene said, I think his last two fights have been the best two fights he's looked, and, it's been against his best competition. But it's got to be Merab. I mean, I guess I don't know if he thinks he can go up and pick off Ilya right now or whatever he wants to do, but I think he's got to stay in his division and finish cleaning that out before he starts taking fights like that. So
I think he doesn't want anything to do with Merab. If I'm being
he doesn't. He does. I don't disagree with you one bit.
Sure,
but I mean, who the hell does? But I mean, it's at the same time, if you're the champ, like that's why being champ, and you look at some of the GOATs that stayed on top of their division for so long, and that's why it's hard to do, because there's always that next, up and comer, next hungry guy that's, the next great prospect, and Merab's a great fighter. So you want to keep the belt, you got to earn it, brother. So I mean, that's got to be his next fight.
Yeah. So for the next, and I think that Peter Yan winning earlier in the card, you can fight him versus Chito Vera. That could be the next fight. You could also give him Corey Sandhagen. You can give him a couple different fights to get him back in the puzzle. It's funny. I think that's the fight that Sean O'Malley lost. And I think back-to-back fights, Peter Yan was robbed by the officials, and he's starting to come out and say that now, which he didn't prior. But after his last win, he said, the UFC took 2 wins away from me by decision. 2 wins, 2 fights I won that they took away from me. I would love to see Peter Yan fight the winner of that, although Peter Yan got ran through by Merab already. So, like, it's one of those things where when you get ran through by someone, Merab is going to destroy Sean O'Malley. But I guess we'll see what happens from there. If I'm Sean, I'm avoiding that fight. Anything by any means necessary.
You're not gonna be able to duck him forever. I mean, because at some point Dana's just gonna tell him this is the fight we're booking, and if you don't
duck him as long as you possibly can and keep getting that money, because you're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose the belt.
Sean said that he's open. He wants to fight. If he fights Merab, he wants to fight him at 306, and that's the card where they're in the Sphere. So, I mean, I think that's a very possible. That'd be seven cards away from now. Sean didn't really take a beating from Chito in this fight, so it gives him plenty of time to recover and be ready for that. And I think that's something that the UFC would definitely have to entertain, because if you want to put a card in the Sphere, Sean O'Malley, I'm not going to say he's your biggest star, but he's definitely one of your top 4 biggest stars in the company at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corey Sandhagen's comments after the fight blasted Chito Vera. He said Chito was simply a punching bag for Sean O'Malley, which can't argue with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to say after the fight, after the way it went down. I mean, but They already said if they sign O'Malley and Marab, that Corey would probably be the fallback safety guy that'll have to stay in shape and make weight and everything. So
Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, I understand it though if I'm Corey, only because like with Cheeto, if Cheeto hadn't won their first fight, there's no way Cheeto's in the championship picture right now.
Yeah.
So I understand Corey being a little, feeling some kind of way about it. But it is what it is. You kind of just gotta roll with the punches.
Part of the fight game is being able to market the fights, and it's that writes itself at that point when you're doing behind the scenes shows and everything. It's all about the revenge, and it's an easy thing to sell. So I mean, it's part of the look at Colby. Colby's a perfect example.
You know what the beautiful thing about Wire2Wire podcast network is right now? We have a lot of topics tonight, right? But if you want in-depth looks at any topic that we talked about, how about this? Ready? I'm going to break it down for you. You want more in-depth look from UFC? You got Road to Gold coming up just Friday night. If you want more on NFL free agency, you have Sideline to Sideline tomorrow night, NFL show. If you want us to talk about some basketball, because that's coming down the stretch right now, N1 is tomorrow night. And those guys get into basketball. And you have the Coffee and Sports morning show every single day. Sunday night, we have a great show, Up and In. It'll break down the East now. They're up to the East. Last week they did the Central. They're doing a great job. Check out those guys, Alex and Chris. But we have a lot of different shows on the network right now. It doesn't allow us to. Our 2-hour show is just getting smaller and smaller because we have so many topics to talk about. But any final thoughts, UFC, before we move into our characters bracket? Because I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm EA Sports. By the way, we're going to the West because we're redoing the Midwest, right? There was a character that we missed in the Midwest, so we have to redo the seating, and we're working on that. So we're going to go to the West. We have that all ready, rock and roll. And next week will be the Midwest. It'll be a Midwest thing. I'll have a jersey specific for next week's show. I'm ready to rock and roll. Pull it up, Cottrell. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to, there's no play-in games this week. None.
No play-ins in the West.
West has 16. Now, Charlie, here's where I get lost a little bit. I don't know who Scott Howard is.
That's your fault, not mine.
I know. So I'd like you to introduce him. I
guarantee you've seen this movie.
Probably have.
All right. So number one, obviously, Shooter McGavin. Probably the odds-on favorite, in Vegas, on the books anyway, to probably win this whole thing. But he's going to start out with kind of a somewhat of a fan favorite. But if you don't know who Scott Howard is, it's Michael J. Fox from Teen Wolf.
Oh, okay. I did see that.
Yes, exactly. Like I said,
it's been a while since I watched Teen Wolf, though, bro.
Listen, it's a great movie, but he's up against a juggernaut here. So, I don't think we're going to spend too much time on this. I just wanted to give him his due. Great basketball player, no matter if he played, it was kind of sucked when he played as himself, but when he brought the Wolf out, he looked like Magic Johnson out there. Got him to the victory over the rival high school and got the girl and everything. So it's a fun movie. Went surfing on the van, all that good stuff. But I think Shooter's just in obviously another league of his own. So this one, I don't think we're going to spend too much time on. Shooter.
Well, Christopher McDonald, I'm telling you right now, when he has a cameo, but it's not of Christopher McDonald, it's of Shooter McGavin. Like, that is his character. And he did such a great job playing it that we have a villain from Happy Gilmore as our number one, probably overall seed in the tournament.
His Twitter, if you follow him on Twitter, his Twitter is actually hysterical as well. His Twitter handle, his Twitter is actually under Shooter McGavin. It's hilarious.
I'm going Shooter here, and by a landslide.
Yeah, this again. We don't need to spend too much time on this one.
Sweep.
It's a sweep.
Sweet.
All right. So here's where we're gonna get really interesting. Can you give me like a little zoom in? Just a little bit.
It's a tough one.
It's not, in my opinion. And I'm gonna explain to you. And I wish that we could like make an executive decision and make a change, because the tougher matchup is near the bottom. You have these two movies going up against each other, and the best two characters from these two movies are going up against each other.
Yeah.
but they're not. It's not these two. It's your 7-10 matchup. But I'll get into that in a minute. Sidney Dean, White Man Can't Jump. One of the best movies. I love that. Right there is perfect. One of the best movies. Sidney Dean is hilarious. He's a trash talker. Constantly tells Billy Hoyle he can't jump. White boys can't do this and that, and they're a 2-on-2 team. He ends up hustling them. Like, the movie's great, right? Jerry Maguire is he's not the best character in his own movie. The movie's called Jerry Maguire, and Jerry Maguire is not the best character. And Rod Tidwell is the best character. And we're going to talk about that in a short little while. So I'll lay my vote here first. Although I would rather, I'd vote Rod Tidwell over Sidney Dean. I'm voting Sidney Dean over Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire was great, but what do we know that movie for? Show me the money, Jerry. Show me the money, Jerry. Not anything Jerry does. It's like Sleepless in Seattle, man. Nothing against the guy. Sidney Dean's the clear-cut winner here.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on a lot of what you just said. I think Rod Tidwell's great. The movie's literally called Jerry Maguire. It's about Jerry Maguire. It is about his journey, and Rod plays a big factor in that, and a big part of that. Don't get me wrong, but and you're saying show me the money, but it's the thing that everybody remembers about that thing is that whole scene when they're both screaming at each other. It's not just Rod Tidwell. There's the human head weighs 8 pounds. There's a lot to that movie, man.
I like that. I love the movie.
I'm gonna put Cottrell in the cooker here. And I asked you guys a question in the chat about White Man Can't Jump on purpose, because that's what it was boiling down to the way I seeded this. So I am going with Jerry Maguire here.
Here we go.
Gene automatically assumes that it's going against it.
I will tell you, every time this happens, every time I go first and you go second, and Cottrell is on the third seat, it always goes to whatever you said, and it drives me nuts.
I don't think that's true.
Up against me all the time, and
I think that's just the case with Friday Night Lights, because you don't respect the show as a whole. But other than that, like last week, I don't think that was the case.
Well, last week I agreed with you on the
yeah, I got hosed out of one of the bad ones last week.
I agreed with Cottrell, but it's never Cottrell saving me or coming to my rescue. But
hey, this isn't about Gene, okay? This is about Sidney and Jerry, okay? How about that? So,
and you tell me you don't think Sidney Dean's a better character than Jerry Maguire? You're on the stove, bro. Let's go.
I know. I'm going with Sidney Dean.
There we go.
You go. You cried and got your way. Congratulations.
I do like Sidney's character more. And I think a part of it too is that as a whole, I like White Man Can't Jump as a whole more than I like Jerry Maguire. I love both of them though. Jerry Maguire is like great movie. Kind of, made me want to potentially look at trying to be like a sports agent. I'm like, this is what Jerry has to go through. Like, yeah, he deals with all the crap, but once you show him the money, he's good to go.
What was that quarterback's name? The quarterback's name he was trying to sign, and he's like, "It's my word, is my bond," and blah blah blah, and they that dude. That part of the movie, I want to punch that guy right in his face. Whatever happened to your word is your bond? It's stronger than oak wood. Whatever happened to that?
Please move me.
All right, Sidney Dean with the win. I'll take it.
But yeah, I actually disagree with you though, Gene. I would probably take Sidney over Rod as well, but
I would not. Maybe I like Rod Tidwell more than most people. Tom Gallo says you guys complete each other. I'm not disagreeing with that. Cottrell, do you want to introduce this one, or do you want it to go back to Shally?
You
I
guys
can
go
introduce
ahead.
it and not vote first. I mean,
Okay,
I can introduce all of them. We can just take turns voting first. I don't care about
that's
that.
fair.
This is Bill's
So
baby, so
number 5, it doesn't matter to me. Number 5, the karate legend himself, the all ever knowing teacher, Mr. Miyagi, from all the Karate Kid movies. Wax on, wax off, paint the fence, everything. The man's wisdom was beyond his years. Took Daniel LaRusso from being a bully to the All Valley karate champion that he was. Going against Ernie McCracken, Bill Murray, another classic Bill Murray performance. This
Kingpin.
is Kingpin, the professional bowler. Dude's hair's falling off half the time. He's got catchphrases. He's got a ball, a see-through ball. It's just, it's hilarious. It's just another
more funnier than Karate Kid.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a funny movie though.
Ernie McCracken's a live 12 here.
100% agree. 100% agree. Another Bill Murray masterpiece. It really is, man. I agree. I think this is a toss up of a 5-12. I don't. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first here because the part that you're missing is that Ernie and Roy in the movie, like obviously like they were friends or whatever, and Ernie just betrays Roy. Ernie loses his hand. Like, movie's just absolutely phenomenal. You said he's a live 12. I got the upset here. Give me Ernie McCracken to beat out Mr. Miyagi. Absolutely loved Ernie McCracken's character. Love Kingpin as a whole, and I think saying Ernie is a live 12 is 100% right.
Yeah, no, he's very live 12. Do you want me to go second here, Bill, or do you want to?
Go ahead, go second. I'll go last.
I'm going Miyagi here, and it's not that like I think it's a 5-12. It's not. It's like an 8-9, right? I'm going Mr. Miyagi here because fighting is not good, but if you must fight, win. And it's not like he just took on Danielson. He had Julieson. Like, we forget about Julieson. Miyagi just gets it done. Wax on, wax off. And a lot of people don't understand what he's teaching when he teaches wax on, wax off. It's a way to defend strikes. Wax on, wax off. Paint the fence. Like, these are ways to get your arms moving in the right direction. I was a Kempo karate kid, so I'm going with Mr. Miyagi, even though I love me some Ernie McCracken.
This is tough because I think they both play obviously major roles in the movie. Again, I think Bill Murray is one of the better character actors of our generation.
He is.
I got to go with my little guy, Pat Morita, though. I'm going Mr. Miyagi. I think there's just too much. I think his body of work is just too much to overcome for Ernie McCracken. Like Gene said, you got Danielson for 2. Not to mention he's got to fight the teachers half the time.
Yeah.
Then he got Julie's son. He took Daniel to Okinawa and saved the family over there. Just a whole lot going on. So I'm going Mr. Miyagi. He advances.
Okay. I'm glad that I didn't care what would end up winning that one because I think they're both good, but I think they're both going down next round. And as much as I love the Hanson brothers and nothing against them, the movie's great. Slapshot's a funny movie. They're not beating Happy Gilmore, guys. This is not a 413. This is UNC Vermont. This is what this is. Happy Gilmore is amazing. Adam Sandler does a great job. Hockey player turns to golf. Tons of quotable lines. Get in the hole. Why won't you go home? Go to your home. My favorite movie parts of the whole movie is when he walks up at the end, finishing 89th, and he goes, well, when do I get my check? And they go, I get mailed to you in 2 weeks. He goes, I want one of those. And he points at the big check that the winners get. And he has a trunk full of huge checks. Like I'm going Happy Gilmore here. I'll introduce this one. Happy Gilmore over to Hanson Brothers.
I don't have a lot to add on to that. I mean, the man fought Bob Barker.
He lost too.
Lost.
He did lose.
Price is wrong, bitch.
got TK'd down the stream.
I think you've had enough. Wait. No, now you've had enough.
You've had enough. Yeah, I'm going Happy here. I mean, the movie's named after him. It is it's one of those just iconic sports movie. Hanson Brothers are great. Slapshot is a great movie. I always run into people who have never seen it. It's a funny ass movie. There's 3 of them. They are, obviously a really big part of the movie, but they're just up against a juggernaut here. So it's Happy Gilmore for me.
So I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna be 100% transparent with everybody here. I've never seen Slapshot.
Oh,
and I'm also going with Happy Gilmore here. So by default, Happy Gilmore was going to move on anyway, but Happy Gilmore was always going to be my pick, especially the way you guys are talking about these Hanson brothers here. It sounds like they weren't a live 13 to begin with, so
they weren't.
I'm more than comfortable letting Happy get the sweep here.
Chase Riley's in the chat. The price is wrong, bitch. Justin Louder, Happy for sure. We're gonna start getting some really heavy hitters soon, right? This is not really one of them. I think that Benny the Jet Rodriguez is as live as anyone to win this bracket. Chally, I gotta stop doing this. Your show, introduce it.
It's all good. Benny the Jet Rodriguez, the Sandlot, best player on the team. Race the beast through town and lived to tell the story. Got the ball back. The kid is has a legendary status around Southern California, and then ended up making the show and playing for the Dodgers. So take it on Chubbs Peterson, the coach that harnessed all Happy Gilmore's talent and got him to win before accidentally falling out of a window.
RIP.
And then unfortunately, Carl Weathers just passed away in real life as well. So definitely an RIP there. Chubbs Peterson was the former pro, had his hand chewed off by an alligator, had a wooden hand that just took a beating during the course of the movie. Great. He was a very integral part of that movie. I think I kind of have to agree with Gene. I think there's a path for Benny the Jet to come out of the West by himself. So this is a tough matchup for Chubbs.
It's very tough for Chubbs. Cottrell, you want to start the bloodbath?
Yeah, I'll take Benny the Jet. Obviously, I feel like whenever we do like our like we did the movie bracket before, things like that. It's like I'm always vocal about how much I love The Sandlot. Definitely one of my favorite, not even just sports movies, just one of my favorite movies in general. So Benny the Jet definitely gets my vote here, and we're putting Chubbs in the dirt.
Okay,
that's piling on right now. That's uncalled for.
Exactly.
We're dark on the show, dude. This is definitely Carl Weathers is dead, bro. Like, let's just stop. It's Benny. Let's just go forward.
Goodness gracious.
We're putting Chubbs in the dirt. I can't with you.
The guy's still warm. Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right, we're going.
No one else take it, Benny? No one else take it, Benny?
No.
You kind of.
I'm not getting involved in this. After that comment.
All right.
I thought Shally was the one that would eventually get us canceled, but Control is heartless.
Short bus is still out there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
We'll be getting back to them soon.
Shally, introduce us.
White Goodman versus the Big Lebowski. I know somebody feels very strongly about this matchup. This is a good one though. This is a legit tournament. Like either team, this is probably like an even on the line, even on the money line type game. You got the Big Lebowski from the Big Lebowski, Jeff Bridges, masterful performance. And then you got White Goodman from Dodgeball. If you're not familiar with who that is, it's Ben Stiller's character from Dodgeball. A million one-liners from it. Between him and Vince Vaughn and him and Christine Taylor. Character was just just a lunatic of a character. I really don't know how to describe him. Dude's out of his mind. Global
No,
gym owner.
bleed my own blood.
Let
me shit.
There's so many. It kind of just depends on kind of like which movie you think is better or what kind of style of movie you like. Dodgeball's kind of a traditional, more of a traditional comedy, where Big Lebowski's kind of more of a dry, kind of a slow burn, but really funny if you kind of look at stuff situationally. Very tough matchup. Very tough matchup.
I like Bunny Lebowski. If we can just put her in this instead of the Big Lebowski, give me some old school Tara Reid. But other than that, I'll start with this one, and I'll see if I can get one of you guys to go on, get on my boat.
Tara Reid in her prime was
100%. I'm going White Goodman here. I might go White Goodman next round. Love me some White Goodman. I'm not going White Goodman over Benny the Jet. Never mind. I love White Goodman. I think his character is hilarious. Like, I think one of the funniest parts of that whole movie was when he goes over to the girl's house and he's like, "Hey, I got great news for you." And she's like, "What's that?" He's like, "I got you fired." She's like, "Why would you do that? You said we couldn't date because we worked together. So I called the bank. I said you were stealing, and I got you fired." Like, I was dying. I think White Goodman's character in that movie is so great. Ben Stiller does an incredible job playing a great villain. Jody loves Chachi. I'm going White Goodman here, and I think he's very underrated. I think he's a very live 11.
Me or you, Cottrell?
Oh, you can go next year.
All right, I'm going to take the suspense out of this. We're going to have another upset in the West. I'm going with White Goodman. I'm a big Lebowski fan. I think it's an underrated movie. That being said, though, I think this is another great character that Ben Stiller played. I think he gets. I actually think Ben Stiller's a little bit underrated. I think he gets lost in the shuffle with with Vince Vaughn. You
don't see Peter LaFleur on this list.
Yeah, with
or Patches.
With Vince Vaughn, Will Ferrell, like all those guys. I think this is just another masterful performance. Like Gene said, he's the villain. There is no dodgeball without White Goodman. So I'm going with White Goodman.
I'm white.
I got White Goodman as well. I had to look it up here to make sure I got it right here. But you talk about one of your favorite lines in the movie, Gene. For me, part that had me dying, he said, "Oh, I don't think I'm a lot dumber than you thought that I think that I thought I was once." Like, that was hilarious to me. White Goodman, he obviously a lot of one-liners within the movie. Purple Cobras in their gym. I loved White Goodman in that movie, and he's moving on with the clean sweep. So 11 seed taking care of business.
Bro, there's so many good lines in that movie by him.
Dodgeball's an underrated movie.
Oh, this is so bad. I was dreading this matchup.
Here we go. So we're gonna go the other side of the two movies we discussed earlier. Billy Hoyle, which is played by Woody Harrelson, in my opinion, is the better character in that movie. Rod Tidwell, who I think equally is great. I think him and Jerry play off well off each other. I just think Jerry is the main character. You got the slight nod and a higher seed. I do agree with Gene. I think this is very tough. I know which way I'm going to go, but this is one that if I'm on the wrong side of it, I won't be upset at all.
Well, I'll go first.
I don't think this will be suspenseful at all. I think that it's going to be a sweep. I'm just giving you my opinion.
I got Billy Hoyle, and I don't. Same. I mean, Rod. I mean, I guess you could call him a live 10, but I don't see it personally.
I think it's a bad matchup. I think I would have voted for Rod Tidwell over Sidney Dean. I'm not voting for Rod Tidwell over Billy Hoyle. When Billy Hoyle gambles away her money again on dunking, like that was that was so, like, you felt for him. Like, they're in the motel and dude, that's she finally gets on Jeopardy. What is the Queens? Like, I love that movie. I can't get enough of it. So I'm going Billy Hoyle here also, and I think so is Shally. But before Rod Tidwell gets banged off the screen, Cuba Gooding Jr. does a phenomenal job playing Rod Tidwell.
Won the Oscar, Best Supporting Actor that year.
And I think Tom
Louder. Oh my God.
What?
Justin Louder put in the chat. He goes, I'm white. WHIT. E. I love that line. We're all going Billy Hoyle here, but it's tough to see Tidwell get swept. This is not hard at all.
No, this won't be tough. Lincoln Hawk, Sylvester Stallone, over the top, the most 80s movie ever about arm wrestling, but it's a guilty pleasure. If it's on, you'll watch it. Great soundtrack, plot that has just holes all over it, but I mean, it was just Sylvester Stallone coming off Rocky and Rambo. It was just, the biggest star in Hollywood, and I don't know why he decided to make this movie, but he did. That being said, it's like I said, it's a guilty pleasure. It's entertaining. He's going against the kid, though. Daniel LaRusso, Mr. Miyagi's star pupil from Karate Kid. Lands the crane kick, the All Valley champion. Gets Elizabeth Shue in her prime. It's the kid had everything going on for him. Went from being bullied to the town hero. So, this is kind of a buzzsaw here.
Yeah, Danielson hit him with the crane kick and hit him early.
Yeah, it's actually illegal. A kick in the face in karate, but
I actually,
who cares?
It depends on what. It's not accurate. I think for 7 years, it's non-helmeted karate. You're not allowed to kick in the face. That's accurate. But if you're a helmet, which most sparring tournaments have helmets, you're allowed to kick in the head. Maybe not in the face. You might be accurate about the face, but you're allowed to kick in the head.
Well, face, head, doesn't matter. Johnny didn't have a helmet on.
Yeah,
Daniel. Daniel got a sympathy point from the ref.
I think Daniel, by the way, is so now rated because there's a whole series on Cobra Kai. There's a whole series on the gym that he went against, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. That show's getting a little out of control, though.
Yeah, definitely. I got Daniel LaRusso here also.
Daniel LaRusso.
Right.
For sure.
Next week we'll be doing the Midwest, which is such a fun bracket. Let's just give a quick
preview when we come back here. So we go
Billy Hoyle versus Daniel LaRusso, Shooter McGavin versus Sidney Dean, Mr. Miyagi versus Happy Gilmore, Benny the Jet versus White Goodman. I'm going to be honest with you. I could knock this out right now. And I think they're all going to be sweet. Seriously, I don't want to get
hard one. We're not going to, but it'll be bittersweet because we're going to send a couple really good characters home, but they're just like I said. I think the West is a good bracket. I think it's top heavy, and your comment there kind of cements that for me.
Yeah, so I think that the next round, when we're in the Elite Eight, will be the Sweet 16 of the group, but the elite or the final four of that bracket will be super, super tough.
Correct. I agree.
But next round, I feel like that there'll be 4 3-0s. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone picks Miyagi. I don't know. But
Miyagi Do.
We have our shortstops list. Seems like we're somewhat on track right now, which I love seeing. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Keep filling the comments in. I appreciate everybody. Joni loves Chachi. Justin was super excited that we got the White Goodman one. But let's get into our shortstop list. I think that this will be I'm okay, yeah. So this is exactly where it's so funny how the tables have changed. The tides have changed in this world. The Corey Seager love is amazing. I'm happy to see it. So let's get into it. Let's get started.
I think it's just crazy that, we first started this show, how much of kind of a shallow position this was.
Yeah.
We have the legendary arguments between Xander and Corey, but that was always at the top. And now there was guys I left off this list that I was like, I can't believe I'm not putting these people on the list. I was going through this and I was like, this is a very difficult position to rate now. It really is. This position in the last 3 years has gotten so deep. It's crazy.
Well, we all have the same 9, right? And that's really interesting. We all have the same 9, just in different orders. Our just 10 is different on all 3 of our lists.
Never mind. You do have him. I thought you didn't have Ellie when I first glanced at your list, and I was like, that was crazy. But okay, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we have the same 9. Everybody's 9 is identical. Just want to start us off, Control.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got Jeremy Pena from the Houston Astros, and look, I know last year his power numbers definitely took a dip from where they were his rookie season, going from 22 home runs to 10. Like that definitely makes a big difference. But I think with him improving, his batting average 10 points, nothing crazy there, but also being where he's at as a fielder, especially being this young, I think he still has plenty of room to grow in that position. And we know he's great defensively. He won a Gold Glove his rookie year. And I think now he will, be back on track to potentially win another one this upcoming year. So I think Jeremy Pena, I think you look at the power numbers, I think they take an uptick compared to where they were last year. And then added in me thinking that he's going to take home another Gold Glove this year. That's ultimately why he landed at number 10 on my list.
Number 10 for me. Went back and forth on this for a while and looked at a lot of things. You went through a lot of different analytics, and he just kind of kept coming out on the top. So I just gave him his due. J.P. Crawford, Seattle Mariners. He's finally turned into what everybody, in Philly thought he was going to. We just didn't have the patience with him to wait because went and signed Bryce Harper, and then the team went from kind of a slow build to we got to win now type thing. And he was still really young. Got to give the kid his credit, man. He's gone out to Seattle, played on a bad team for a couple years, and now he's on one of the better teams in the American League. Very, very good defensive shortstop. And his offensive, statistics have gone up 3 straight years. He's at almost 270 now. Decent pop, had almost 70 RBIs. Lands him number 10. Gotta give him his due. So I put him number 10 on my list.
You guys might not know CJ Abrams now, but you will know him at the end of this year. And I'm sure Shally knows who he is, but this was one of the big pieces in the Juan Soto trade. He came over from San Diego. He's a stud shortstop. He's 22 years old, turns 23. He's going to be a leadoff in a very bad Washington Nationals lineup. But I think he's earned his right to be top 10. I think the reason that he's top 10 for me is because I kind of wanted to put light on him before he has his breakout year. I'm projecting him to be a top 10 shortstop this year. I love what he's doing over there in Washington. Like obviously he's not hitting at a major league level yet, but he's got all the flashes and all the talent in the world to be at that major league level. He batted 254 last year. He's going to get a full 150 games in this year, and he's going to be at the catalyst to top of that Nationals lineup. The Nationals team's going to be bad, but CJ Abrams is one of those guys that's going to stand out on that team. Number 9, I have Dansby Swanson. I don't really know where to put Dansby. Dansby found a real home, and he was obviously good when he was a Brave, but went over to Chicago. Most people, they really struggle when they move over locations. His batting average did drop 30 points. But I think Dansby has a bounce back year in year 2 over in Chicago as far as his overall batting average. But all the other stuff like that he had as far as his 2023 season wasn't too far off from his numbers throughout his career. He had over 20 home runs, 80 RBIs. His slugging, his OPS was almost identical to what it was. And he's a Gold Glove finalist. So I have Dansby Swanson as my number 9. I think he's a very good player. I think he has a bounce back year as far as hitting.
Number 9, sorry. I have Ellie De La Cruz from Cincinnati. Came up last year, had a lot of viral clips, a lot of viral highlights. Played third base. They're going to move him to shortstop, which is where they see him long term. He's played there most of spring training. We're going to see how he settles in for the year. He's still, I think is as much of a freak athlete as he is, and he has these moments. He really needs to kind of round out his game and kind of shore up some things. I'm curious to see how he's going to play defensively at the major league level at shortstop. And for all the monster home runs and stuff that he hit that we saw on SportsCenter, he only hit 235. He's got to cut down on the strikeouts big time. He's got to be better in the zone, just, creating, hard contact, get his barrel rate up. He's got a lot to work on. Obviously with him, the ceiling is to the moon, just because of the physical gifts that he has. Throws the ball almost 100 miles an hour across the diamond. He's special, and he has the ability to be very special. But it's something I put him at 9 because, again, I think him getting into, growing comfortable in the shortstop is going to take some time. And I think he's going to see less fastballs this year because he had a couple into the river last year. So I think he's got, mounds of potential in front of him. But just for this year, he's number 9 because I think there's just more sure things ahead of him right now.
Quick correction. Dansby Swanson won the Gold Glove last year.
Yeah, he did.
Wasn't the final. Sorry.
Yeah, so number 9 for me, I have Dansby Swanson as well. Gene, you talk about him finding a home there. I mean, when you can put up consistent numbers offensively and then be the best shortstop defensively in the entire league last year, you have to find a way on my list here. I think Dansby Swanson is a guy who's going to be painting the picture of consistency. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to probably give you somewhere between 15 to 20 defensive runs saved. He's going to bat for average. And he's going to be a viable piece in that Cubs lineup. And I like what the Cubs have done so far and basically saying, hey, we're going to run it back this year and see how everything shakes out. And so I think Dansby's going to be a big part of that. And, ultimately that's why he landed at number 9 on my list. Number 8, I got Elly De La Cruz from the Cincinnati Reds. Elly clearly busted on the scene last year, really out of nowhere, kind of like a Linsanity craze, but he kept it going and, was rather consistent. I think he's going to be very fun to watch. And, him having as bright of a, short year as he did last year. I agree with you, Bill. I do think he's not going to be able to see a lot of the same pitches just because teams will know, what he can do with it. But he brings more to the game than just that, just his ability to steal bases and just generate runs on his own. I think just makes him a great player in his own right. And so ultimately that's why I have him at number 8 here.
Yeah, so number 8, I got Dansby. Both these guys have talked to him already. Defensively, he's as good as they come. 18 defensive runs saved last year. He was 20 outs above average over the average defensive shortstop in major leagues last year. That's an insane number. To put it in perspective, that is like peak Nolan Arenado, people like that type number. And to play at the shortstop position, which is more of a premium position, the dude is just a wizard with the glove. Like Gene said, 22 home runs, 80 RBI, still productive. Average went down a little bit, but they went out and got him last year to be part of the rebuild. And like Cottrell said, they're starting to put pieces around all these guys already. Shares the middle infield with Nico Horner. We talked about on the second baseman's list. Very, very good player. I really struggle where to put him because I was writing everybody's name down. I'm like, I can't believe, like, am I really putting Dansby Swanson 8th? Like, he's a gold glove. He's the best defensive shortstop in baseball, and he's not a bad hitter. But it just, like I said, this position got extremely deep over the last 2 years, and that's why you get a guy of his caliber at number 8. So that's where Dansby falls for me.
Yeah, I love Dansby. I want to address PD. PD, I appreciate you in the chat. He's mentioned O'Neal Cruz multiple times. He was definitely one of the people that I thought about putting on this list. He hasn't played 100 games. You're talking about a guy who played 9 games last year and got hurt for the whole year. I got to see it at a major league level. I know he's got all the talent in the world. I've seen it in his rookie year, but even in that year, he only played 80 games. So the guy hasn't had 100 games booked on the board yet. So I want to see what he does. He's got all the raw talent in the world. And I understand the honorable mention for O'Neal Cruz. I think he could be there, but I just need to see a little bit more. I can't project it yet.
And I think the other thing too with O'Neal, like he's definitely having a great spring training so far. So I would even understand, if you have him in your top 10, because I mean, he's been on fire so far throughout spring training. But for me, Gene, it was the exact same thing. I just haven't been able to see it. And I know we say all the time that this is a projection show, but I don't know what to project when I haven't seen him play any, good length.
Yeah, the argument can be made for me for CJ Abrams. He's barely played 100 games too. So I get it. But my 11, 12 were Pena and Crawford. So O'Neal would probably have been my 13, 14 area, just to be clear. My number 8 is Elly De La Cruz. And it's because Elly can get on base in so many different ways. Like he has the power to hit over defense. We've seen that. But his speed and what he does on the base pass, he reminds me of Juan Pierre with power. Like it's insane. Like what the athleticism this kid has. Now, defensively, he's a little bit of a mess and a little bit of a liability. He can make a spectacular play, and he can also throw it in the stands. So I want to see a little bit more consistency with him there. I also want to see him barrel the ball a little bit more. I think he fell in love with a little bit of slapping the ball the other way and running and using his speed to get on base for a good portion of the year where he struggled. But when he came up, it was Linsanity all over it again. Ellie Dela Cruz, my number 8. My number 7 is Bo Bichette. That might be low considering where Cottrell's got him. And, I just – the 6 guys ahead of him are just better players. And when I mean better players, I don't mean they're better hitters. They're just better overall players. Like, they do everything on the baseball field better than Bo does. I was one of the guys that was really high on Bo last year, and it's just I've yet to see him completely break out and be Bo Bichette that I expect him to be. And I expect him to be a 300 hitter. I expect him to hit for power. I expect him to do more things than what he's been doing on the baseball field. And Toronto's really just disappointed me the last few years. So I got Bo number 7. No slight. I just think the 6 guys ahead of him are just on a different playing field right now.
So number 7 for me, I have Frankie Lindor. Say I struggle with Waterport Dansby. Lindor was in the same category. It was, he's coming into his age 30 year. His power numbers are still there. And defensively, he's still good. He's starting to slow down a tad there. Still 7 defensive run saves, 6 outs above, average. He's still as good as it gets there. But I think some of these young kids are just going to have a better year. And I just can't figure out how he went from being a 320 hitter to going to New York and hitting 255 every year. I just don't understand that much of a drop. And I thought maybe it was going to be the first year when he first got there a couple years ago, and it hasn't improved. I think he's got a little home run happy with his swing. But overall, I still love the guy. I still think he's a stud. New York's lucky to have him. Has one of the best attitudes of any player in all of Major League Baseball. But I think we might have seen peak Frankie, and as much as that sucks to say for me, kind of like Gene just said, I think all the guys above him are not necessarily better overall around, but they definitely have aspects of their game that might be better than Frankie right now. So he came in number 7 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we've seen peak Frankie for sure, and I'll get into that after I go over Gunnar here. But for me, number 7, I got Gunnar Henderson from the Baltimore Orioles, and I know I have him the lowest of us 3 here. For me, what it really came down to was, I think, offensively, his numbers are going to be very similar to what Frankie's are. Defensively, yeah, he is, he's definitely better. Made the switch over full time. We'll be playing shortstop this upcoming year. But for me, I think this upcoming year, I really think Frankie has a bounce back year. Now, is it going to be back when he was with the Indians way back when, where he bats for 315 and things like that? No, I don't think that's the case, but I do think he finds a way to get his average back up. I think he can sit in the 270 to 280 range, and he's going to be a guy that can get you 30 home runs and, between 90 and 100 RBIs. And so that's really why I gave Frankie the slight lean there. Now, of course, Gunnar has the courtesy or the luxury, I should say, of being younger, and winning a Silver Slugger award in your rookie year is no small slight. I just think Frankie has one last push in him to have a breakout or comeback season, so to speak.
Number 6 for me, I have Bo Bichette. Now, there's certain things Gene just said when he went over them that I agree with. I also don't want to sit here and say the sky is falling on the kid. He did hit 306 last year, 20 home runs, 73 RBIs. He was still +5 defensively, and he's going to turn 26 in this season. So I would dare say I don't think we've seen his best year yet. I will agree with certain things. I do think that Toronto team as a whole is underachieved. But as far as Bo goes, I think Bo's kind of been the most consistent part of that team. We love Vlad Guerrero and all that, but he's had his ups and downs. I think Bo has kind of been the guy that's kind of been there and steadied the ship. Still very good, like I said. Defensively, he's very good. And he's a 325-80 guy. They don't grow on trees, So I have him a little higher than Gene. So I have number 6. Still a very good player. Still young. Still probably getting better.
I got Gunnar Henderson, number 6. You want to talk about a guy that won a Silver Slugger, AL Rookie of the Year? Gunnar Henderson is just the sky's the limit. He's continually ascending. Hit 28 home runs last year. He's in a loaded Baltimore lineup. I love what Gunnar Henderson does. I'm a big Gunnar Henderson fan. I was a big fan of him last year. I had him higher than most last year. I have number 6 this year. And the only reason I have Frankie Lindor number 5 is I really seen a turn for him last year, right? So, yeah, he'd still batted 253. Power numbers are strong. The extra base hits numbers are strong. And his barrel rate improved. And he's still, Frankie Lindor is playing shortstop. He's a very good defender. I like Frankie Lindor. I probably have him higher than most, and I understand that. I think he's a very good shortstop. I think the top 4 on a whole nother level. I don't think they're even close to the bottom 6. But I have Frankie Lindor number 5, just edging out Gunnar Henderson.
Number 5, I have Gunnar Henderson. He is part of that core in Baltimore that's going to be there for the next 10 years and going to help them kind of run that division for a while. Aldi Rushman, I think, gets a lot of the headlines. To be quite honest, Gunnar is probably the best player out of that group of 4 that are there. He's going to play his natural shortstop this year. We already mentioned the Silver Slugger, as a rookie, which is just insanity. The list of people who have done that is very short. And at third base last year where he played, he was plus 10 defensively runs saved. Kid is very good defensively, young, just going to keep getting better. Him and the next guy on my list are going to be the top 2 guys on this list for a long time to come soon, in a couple years. So sky's the limit, extremely high ceiling. You saw a glimpse of it last year. You're going to see way more of it this year. Gunnar Henderson, number 5 of the Orioles for me.
So number 5 for me, I got Bobby Witt Jr. From the Kansas City Royals. Bobby Witt clearly, just bursted on the scenes last year. We all had him on our list last year, fully expected him to have a great year, and he absolutely did. The power numbers were there, and clearly great hitter. If it was just in terms of hitting, probably would be higher on my list. And I will say with him as well, he definitely made strides defensively. As well, but I do think that the 4 guys I have ahead of him are going to be better in that department. Plus, be able to put it. They're not going to quite, especially with Bo, because I'll get into Bo next. Bo won't quite put up Bobby's numbers offensively, but I do think it will be close because I'm predicting it now. This is the put up or shut up year for Bo Bichette and that Toronto team. I'm all in on the Blue Jays this year. I think they have to have that last monster year, or they're going to have to blow it up. And I'm not just saying blow it up and essentially start from scratch, but you're going to see a lot of those pieces, start to get moved. And you're kind of already seeing that now. Obviously, moving on from Matt Chapman, not saying that's like a huge piece from that core, but I think this is the last year Toronto is really going to have all those young guys and all these legacy kids really all together. And I think Bo Bichette takes that next step. I think this is going to be a year where he bats for 300, and he also has 25 home runs and close to 100 RBIs. But I also think, defensively, he's no slouch there either. So I'm really predicting a coming out party for Bo Bichette this year.
It's fair.
So I got Bobby Witt Jr. number 4. He's kind of the prodigy. Again, it's even if you're a casual fan, you've probably heard his name in the last couple of years. 276 last year, 30 home runs, 96 RBIs on a dreadful baseball team. Dreadful. The one thing I think is a little surprising, Cottrell touched on it. The one thing I think a lot of people, across the board, he was very good defensively coming up, and they thought that would be the easiest part of his game to translate, and he struggled a little bit. -4 defensive run save. Mind you, again, you're playing on a team with bad pitching. You're facing way more, harder hit balls constantly than some of these other guys are. But apparently he spent a lot of time this offseason working on his defense. So he put the work in. I think Bobby Witt is a 300 hitter, 30 home run, 100 RBI guy this year. I really do. He's that good. He's still, I believe, how old is Bobby? He's 23. I mean, he's not even hit his prime yet. That's why I have him number 4. I think he has a monster year. If he was on a better team, he'd probably be in the MVP race at the end of the year. That's what type of year I think you're going to see out of Bobby Witt Jr.
100%. The ascension he's had from coming up to his rookie year to last year, he'll continue to ascend up. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be end up being a 40 home run shortstop. The guy's got a better version of Troy Tulowitzki written all over him. Love Bobby Witt Jr. Love what he does. Just hate that he's stuck on a really bad Kansas City Royals team. That's my number 4. My number 3, and I see you guys both have Corey Seager number 1, and I love Corey Seager. You guys know how much I love Corey Seager. Winning the World Series and coming back just is always going to be a little drop off for me. I don't think he'll continue to tear that he was on. Obviously, he had a great postseason. I mean, guys, can we admit Corey Seager is a clutch player now? Kind of a joke. But Corey Seager absolutely knocked out the ballpark. He's an elite player. He could be 1, 2, or 3 on any of your list. I'm not arguing with it. But after winning the World Series, I just think he takes a hair step back.
Blasphemous. That's what I'm going to say.
What's blasphemous?
The fact that we have the last 2 years and you come out here this year and put him number 3 after all the hubbub, I think it's
projections,
hilarious.
Brother. I projected his great year, and now I'm projecting him taking a little bit step back. And when I'm right next year, then you can have him number 3 on your list.
I think he's going to have another monster year.
And I love him, and I hope he does. I hope I'm wrong. But I think Trey Turner, second year in Philadelphia, and I already talked about what I think Mookie Betts is going to do. I talked about Mookie Betts last week. I think he'll sleepwalk 150 runs. So, like, it's not a slight against Corey Seager to me. It's the fact that Trey Turner's second year in Philadelphia, batting 2, seeing all the fastballs in the world with Bryce Harper behind you, and Mookie Betts playing in a loaded lineup where he might waltz in and score 150 runs.
So the aforementioned Trey Turner, I'm going with number 3. Listen, if you've listened to me talk baseball at all the last 3 years or talk to me in person, I am a big proponent of it takes guys a year to get settled and on to, with a new team, that it takes a year to get settled and really, comfortable with where you're living, getting your family settled, so forth and so on. Trey Turner, in the course of 2 years, went from Washington, picked up and moved everything to the West Coast, played there for a year, and then picked up everything again and moved back to the East Coast. New schools for kids, wife, all that good stuff. I've just seen it too many times in baseball where it happens. The second year, you always get the guy that you really thought you were getting. And even Trey Turner last year, we've talked about it numerous times on this podcast. After he got the standing ovation, how good his numbers were in the second half of the season last year. Only ended up hitting 266, but when he was only at 200 for the first almost 3 months of the year, to end up at 266 tells you what he was, in the second half in the playoffs. Still ended up with, 26 home runs, 76 RBIs. I think Trey Turner gets MVP votes this year. I don't think he's going to be the top 3 or 4, but I think he gets a decent amount of MVP votes. I think his defense will pick back up to where it normally is. I think his average will be back up around 300, and he'll be right around that 100 RBI, 100 runs scored, makes him elite in the league. I have him number 3.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I also have Trey number 3 as well. Again, not to beat a dead horse here, but we do talk about it all the time. We've talked about it before. Me and Gene had Xander on our list. We think he has a bounce back year. And you saw with Corey Seager. Corey Seager didn't have this monster year his first year in Texas, but then he came back the following year and put up those insane numbers that probably wins him MVP in some other years in the league. So I think Trey Turner has a lot to look forward to with that Philadelphia Phillies team. I think the one thing that surprised me with Trey is that, I saw him play in the World Baseball Classic, and I kind of thought that he was just going to go in Philly and just light it up right away. And, the reality of it is that these things just take some time, and there's never any doubting Trey Turner's ability. So I think him being in, Gene mentioned it, him being in that lineup, being around Bryce, being around some of those other guys who you really can't pitch around Trey, especially in that spot. I think he's tuned to have a bounce back year. Number 2, I got Mookie Betts. We talked about him a lot last week, so I won't go crazy too in depth here. The one thing that I will mention is that just seeing him play, and I know it's a fresh new position for him, seeing him play shortstop right now, I'm kind of thinking the Dodgers might have to figure out a new plan. I know he still has plenty of time. He's a great athlete, things like that, but he just doesn't look comfortable at that position. And I get it. He hasn't played there. So why would he look comfortable at this point? But numbers wise, offensively, Mookie's going to be at the top of every list that you look at. And so regardless of how he looks at short defensively, I think he's still going to be where he's at on this list. But I definitely have some question marks after seeing him field some balls at short. He just doesn't look like he's comfortable at that position, and Dodgers might want to address that sooner rather than later.
So for a lot of the reasons Cottrell just mentioned, is why I have Mookie number 2. Listen, offensively, we've talked about it at length, what that Dodgers lineup's going to do. Mookie's going to score 130 runs. He'll be up there in RBIs. He'll have 30 home runs. But playing second base and shortstop at the major league level are drastically different things. They're not on the same planet. He's going to get comfortable over there. It's going to mess with it. Not going to say mess with his head, but it's going to take a lot of his focus. Like, he's going to get focused to get comfortable over there. Not saying that he's not capable of being number 1 on this list. He obviously is. He's a former MVP, has a cannon. I think it's going to take him a year or 2 to get adjusted there. And I just can't put him over the guy who is a Gold Glove nominee, coming off an MVP type season and a World Series championship. I know Mookie will probably have slightly better offensive numbers, but the guy that I have number 1 is a underrated defensive shortstop. He's very good. That's why Mookie's number 2 for me, not number 1.
I love it. I love all the compliments you're giving my guy, Corey Seager. Number 2, I have Trey Turner. Trey Turner, I think, has a huge bounce back year. If he just does what he did his last year in LA, or what he did his previous 2 years in Washington, where he batted 330, batted 300 his last year in LA, Trey Turner is going to be at the top of his list and going to get MVP votes. I think he's learned the Citizens Bank dirt and learned the lay of the land. I think his defense will go back to where he was prior. He had a very rough year last year, and I think that what the Philly fans did for him by giving him that standing ovation, and you've seen what he did from that point, like he went on a tear and led them into the second round of the playoffs, as well as Bryce. I think they're all healthy. They're all comfortable. I think it's a big year for the Phillies. I love Trey Turner at number 2 here. My number 1's Mookie Betts. Now, will he improve defensively? I don't know, and I can't speak to that yet. What I could speak to is what the guy's going to produce offensively. He's going to bat 300. He's going to score 150 home runs, and he's going to hit 35 home runs. And like Mookie Betts does that, he's going to be an MVP candidate, and he's going to be one of the best players in all baseball. I just think Corey Seager can't replicate. He's never had a year like he did last year. I love Corey Seager. I'm a huge fan. But batting 330, winning World Series MVP, finishing second MVP, like that's Corey Seager's best season you're going to see. I just don't see him getting better than that. That's what I projected of him 2 years ago. But here we are. Mookie Betts is my number 1, and you guys could possibly be dead on right about his defense and slowing him down. I had him number 1 second base last week. He transitioned to shortstop. We'll see. Let me see what happens. But I'll have Mookie Betts number 1 right now.
So I got Corey number 1. Monster year last year, 327, 33 home runs, 96 RBIs. That was also with him missing a month of the season. So that projects out to low 40 home runs, about 120 RBIs, depending on where he is, in those 20, 25 games. Led his team in the World Series, +5 defensive, runs saved, +2 outs above average. Like I said, he's an underrated defensive shortstop. Doesn't have the most smooth mechanics, and that's why I think a lot of people don't think he's a great shortstop. But when you look at his range metrics and look at, he gets to a lot of balls that other guys don't. Has an underrated arm. I'm going to, I'm not saying he's going to have a better year than he had last year. But I think if he stays healthy, playing in that ballpark with that lineup, and Texas has a very good lineup, I think he's capable of at least replicating what he did last year. So I put him at number 1. Like I said, Mookie's got to prove it to me at shortstop to flip flop that. Like I said previously, because I know what Mookie's offensive numbers are going to be, but I just can't hand him the crown of the shortstop list with his struggles already and him really never playing shortstop before. So it is a difficult position to play. So I'm going with Corey Seager, number 1.
And I'm also going with Corey Seager, number 1. And I get it, not saying that his numbers will look exactly the same as what they did last year. Corey's been consistent. I mean, 33 home runs exactly the past 2 years in that ballpark and found a swing down there in Texas. And I think that, again, with him playing more games this upcoming year, I definitely think that Corey can still bat above 300, be a 30-plus home run guy, and also, have 100 plus RBIs if he plays in, 30 more games this upcoming year than what he did last year. And I think with Corey as well, winning a championship, yeah, maybe he comes off as being a little bit content and not as hungry as he was last year. That's definitely possible. But if anything, I think that should give me even more confidence in the world that, hey, I'm coming off my best season yet, and I'm really only still getting better. So I think he can, improve off of last year and get those numbers pretty close. I don't think he bats 327 again, but if he's above 300, I mean, that's all you can ask for him. And I think that would, cement his spot as the number 1 shortstop on this list.
Guys, I respect your list, and you guys do a great job of putting out the list of where the players are, like, going into the season. I think that the one thing that we miss a lot when we do these lists is projecting the current season. And very infrequently where you have a number 1 guy, the guy that was the best guy on the planet last year, that's the best guy on the planet the next year after that. It's very infrequent that happens. I'm a big Corey Seager fan. He has not even sniffed 327 in his career. Not even sniffed.
For sure. And again, though, he doesn't have to be 327 next year. I'm not saying he goes out there and has the same year that he had last year. And, an example of that, in your case here would be Paul Goldschmidt having that monster year, and then the following year just still having a good year, but not it being exactly the same. I just think that him having a drop off, if he's at 301, 302, he's got 30 plus home runs and he's sitting at 105 RBIs, then I'm not mad at his production. I'm not going to say it's better than what it was the previous year, but I still think at that point he's up there with the best shortstops in the game.
Well, if you want to get more baseball talk, you got to tune in to Up and In Sunday night. Those guys do a great job talking baseball. We are going to break down give our conference tourney picks, college basketball. We will have our March Madness bracket out, ready to rock and roll Sunday. $10 a bracket. You can win a pair of AirPod Pros. Make sure you sign up. All right, what do we got first? Oh, the Big East.
Big East.
So I'll just go through my winner and my second place. I actually have Villanova beating DePaul and beating Marquette, but I have them losing to Creighton. I have UConn over Creighton in the finals. I got Villanova getting their 2 wins that they need to probably get into the tournament. Might be a homer pick, maybe. I think Marquette's probably the better team. But I got UConn over Creighton.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Villanova beats Marquette, that they become a lock. They're probably going to be an 8 or 9 seed at that point.
Hold on, I want to address this, but Godfrey said, I can't believe you guys have Betts number 1 at shortstop, number 1 second base. He's great, but does fielding full time come into play? Godfrey, we had him number 1 last week when we thought he was going to play second base. Between last week's show and this week's show, they transitioned him to shortstop, so we have to give an accurate list. I apologize that we didn't know he was going to go to shortstop until this week, but that's the reason that he's on both lists. Sorry.
Big East, I have the same final, though. I have UConn over Creighton in the final. I think Creighton gets by Marquette. I think UConn is probably just going to sleepwalk through the top half of that bracket. And Villanova, I think Villanova, as long as they take care of DePaul tonight, I think they get in, as long as they don't lose by like 40 to Marquette. And if they beat Marquette, they're definitely in. I think they've done enough down the stretch to get in. So I would love to see them beat Marquette, though. But I agree with Gene. I got UConn over Creighton in the final.
I have the same final as you guys, but I'm going the opposite way. I got Creighton over UConn.
Ooh.
And I think that Creighton matchup, I think UConn is the better team, but I think for whatever reason, the Creighton matchup gives UConn some problems. Now, I know UConn won the first matchup, when they played earlier this year, but Creighton didn't really shoot the ball well. And you saw once that happened in that second game that they wiped the floor with UConn. So I think this being the third time that they're seeing each other, I think Creighton's going to get it done in that championship. And I don't, for the record too, I don't think Villanova gets past Marquette. I think it's a close game, but I think Marquette squeaks by them.
Squeaky.
Oh, we got the WAC, the Pac-12. Control, you want to start us? We'll just do the wraparound.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So I definitely have Arizona going to the final, and I think they're going to take on Utah. I think Utah is a weird kind of matchup there, down there being a 6 seed, but I think Colorado's a team that has been consistently up and down. And I think Utah, is a team that can beat Colorado, and I think they can beat Washington State as well. So I got Arizona over Utah in the final.
I am going with Arizona over Washington State in the final. Washington State has kind of been not only Arizona, but Arizona's head coach Tommy Lloyd is kryptonite. I think for his career, he's like 2-7 against Washington State across all the teams he's coached, and they beat him once this year too. So Arizona, listen, Arizona has. I've been very high on Arizona all year, but they unfortunately have this really bad habit of every 4 or 5 games they just throw in a clunker, and it's not good. I don't know why they're having the consistency issues they're having. Caleb Love was just named Player of the Year, the UNC Tar Heel, transfer. It's just really weird, and that's what scares me about them in the tournament. But that being said, neutral court, I think they'll get over the hump here. I think it'll be another really great game. Like Cottrell said, Washington State matches up really well with Arizona, but I'll take the Wildcats to come out victorious here and win the championship.
I guess all three of us have a different final. I'll have Arizona over Colorado. Colorado's won 6 straight. They're probably the hottest team going into this tournament. I think Arizona beats Colorado in the finals. I don't really think there's too much. Last time Arizona played Colorado, they punked them. It wasn't even close. Big Ten. This is a fun one. Some of this is already. Well, you already got the updated. All right.
Yeah. Some of it on.
So, I feel like I'm rocking way too much chalk here. I don't want to keep doing this, but I have Purdue over Illinois. I have 1 over 2. Yeah, real bold of Eugene. But I think they're the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. I think the way it lines up. Purdue's a lot better than I gave them credit for. I've watched more and more Purdue. I have Purdue beating Illinois in the final of the Big Ten tournament. I'll just stay there.
I'm going to echo a lot of what Gene just said. I hate to say it, this is a really down year for the Big Ten. For the last couple of years, as good as and you can make an argument they were the best conference in college basketball. This year, you cannot. Nebraska's kind of a scrappy 3 seed. I'll take Illinois' experience there. And I have to agree with Gene. This isn't last year's Purdue team. I know they still have Zach Edey, but they're the best 3-point shooting team in the country. They're 1 or 2. They're right there on percentage and makes. They're very good. But we just have a lot of disappointing teams. Iowa, I think, is nowhere near as good as people thought they were going to be. Michigan, Ohio State have absolutely just shit the bed this year. Rutgers took steps back. Michigan State was a fraud. It's just a down year. It's down year for the Big Ten. So as much as I don't want to go chalk, I think Illinois and Purdue are just the 2 best teams in the conference this year. So I'll go Purdue over Illinois as well.
Got to shout out Cottrell. He was the first one to bring up Braden Smith on the show. He was talking about him being the X factor with Zach Edey over there at Purdue. And when I watched him play, man, that guy's a sniper, plays good defense, does a lot real well. So
Yeah, and I think, with this being a down year, it's definitely a down year for the Big Ten. I will say Rutgers, I think, will be very good next year with their upcoming freshman class. We're not talking about that right now. I think with Ohio State and Iowa playing, I think Iowa actually wins that game against Ohio State. But I really like either of those teams to go beat Illinois the following week. I think Illinois sitting and both of those teams having a chance to play. I think they can come in and shock that Illinois team. So for me in the final, I have Purdue over Nebraska. Nebraska's a team that played Illinois tough. So even if Illinois does find a way to, get out of that game, I think it was a 3-point game last time that they played. And I think, Illinois, Gene, you talk about being a little bit too low on Illinois. Well, I'm still not a believer. So I'm going with Nebraska to take over, that side of their region. And I got Purdue ultimately winning over Nebraska in the Big Ten championship game.
It's fair. Start us off on the Big 12.
So Big 12 tournament's actually going to look a little weird now. Kansas is actually going to be down their two best players. Hunter Dickinson is not playing, and then their best guard isn't playing either.
They're actually
I don't know why. Kevin McCullough.
They're both out. They're underdogs tonight. They're actually 2.5-point dogs to Cincinnati.
Doesn't change my pick regardless of whether they were there or not.
Doesn't surprise me at all that that's the case. For me, I feel like I've been going a lot of 1-3s here, and I'm going to continue that trend here. I got Houston over Baylor in the Big 12. Iowa State is a team that if you look at their record and if you've watched them play basketball, they've been great all season long. But you have to look at the fact that they have not lost a game at home at all this upcoming year. On the road, they play down to them playing down to level of competition, not being as comfortable away from home. Big 12 tournament won't be home games for Iowa State. So I think they falter. I think they might even lose to Texas in that second game. So I'm going with Houston over Baylor in my Big 12 championship game.
I'm going to agree with half of yours. I'm going to put Houston there. I think this is actually, Calvin Sampson's best team. I think this team scores a little bit easier than his past teams have. They run that 3-guard system. They still play suffocating defense. So I think Houston comes out the top half of the bracket. I'm going to go with Iowa State, though. I've watched enough of them this year. I don't dislike Baylor. I think that's a popular pick amongst a lot of people. But I like Iowa State's defense. And I know they're not going to be home, but they're not going to be away either. It's going to be a neutral. It's going to be a neutral court. So, defense travels. It's one of those things, especially this time of year for college basketball. Iowa State is scrappy, play great defense. I'll take that to get to the final and eventually lose out to the teams just a little bit better at what they do in Houston.
I'm going to make a projection now, and we'll see how the bracket plays out. So it's not maybe my official projection. I have Houston winning the national championship. I think they're the best team in the country.
Going on record early.
Yeah, I'm going on record early. Depending on how their bracket plays out, I think it's going to be Houston versus Tennessee in the finals. I think they're the best two teams in the country. With UConn being third after watching everything I've watched. But I got Houston over Baylor in this one. I think the Iowa State Baylor, you can flip a coin in that game. Iowa State's played Houston really tough this year. When they played in Iowa State, they won by 4. When they played in Houston, they lost by 8. So they're very competitive games with those two teams. So if it's Iowa State versus Houston, I can see Iowa State pulling the upset over Houston in the Big 12 finals. But I think it'll be Houston over Baylor in the Big 12 finals, and I have Houston winning it.
All right. I think we just got
SEC and ACC. Yep, ACC next. This is finally the one where I'm going to give you guys a little bit of cheese.
Give us the
I'll
cheese.
start. I have Virginia over Pittsburgh. That's my final in the ACC. I know it's kind of crazy to most people. I think North Carolina throws out a typical North Carolina dud. And I think they get ready for the tournament. I think they're really looking ahead to the tournament. I think Pitt beats North Carolina. I think Virginia beats Duke. And then I'll have Virginia over Pitt in the finals.
I unfortunately think this is the boring one because I think you're getting UNC Duke again. Just like I said about the Big Ten, it's a really down year for the ACC as well.
Yeah,
fact. They're worse than us.
They really are. Louisville, I think, has like 4 wins. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy as good as both conferences usually are. They are both not solid this year.
They'll be lucky to get 5 teams into the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Not exaggerating.
and stuff's going to have to happen the right way for that to happen. I'm going to go UNC over Duke, though. I think they beat them twice. I believe it's in Greensboro, so it's going to be practically a home game for both teams if they get there. I'm just gonna go against Gene a little bit. I don't think they throw in the dud, and I think Duke's played them twice now and realized they can't beat them. Kind of the kryptonite. I think UNC just has too much down low. They're too tough and they're too physical. So I will go with the Tar Heels to do the old double this year, win the regular season and the conference championship.
So this is one where I'm going to agree with Bill. I think in a normal year, Gene, I could definitely see, what you're saying with North Carolina or even Duke throwing in a stinker. I don't think Virginia's that good this year, and I don't know if Pitt's going to beat Wake Forest in their game. So I have North Carolina ultimately playing Duke for the ACC championship game, and I think Tar Heels are going to get the championship, I guess you could say. And I just think they're the better team. Duke is a team they have had success this year, but for me, they've kind of been underwhelming. I thought they would have a lot more success, especially with the class they brought in, Kyle coming back and things like that. But North Carolina has been their kryptonite and has owned the rivalry this year. So I think that continues, and North Carolina wins the game for the 3rd time this year.
Okay, last one. The SEC.
Now, if there's going to be chaos, this will be the one, in my opinion.
It's fair.
Facts.
Yes,
So
sir.
am I starting here?
It's you,
Jane?
sir.
All right. So I do see some chaos happening. I don't know if Ole Miss and Texas A&M have played yet, but I actually think Ole Miss wins that game, and I think Ole Miss and Kentucky would be a banger. But going to my championship game, I have it being Tennessee versus Alabama. I think South Carolina is going to get a revenge factor against Auburn. I think Tennessee squeaks by South Carolina there. But ultimately, I got Alabama beating Tennessee in the championship game. I think Tennessee is the better team as a whole, but I think Alabama's going to find a way to just steal that game because nothing goes as planned in the SEC this year. Everybody loses to somebody, and I think this is the one bracket where I think if a 1 seed doesn't win it all, it would have to be in the SEC just because they've been beating the hell out of each other all year long.
You had me up to the very end. I agree with you on the final 2 teams. I got Tennessee and Alabama. I just think the winner is going to be different. I think Tennessee is kind of like in the same boat as North Carolina from last year. I think they're salty the way they went out from the tournament. I think they've been a little bit of a goal-oriented type season this year. I think they win the SEC over Alabama. I think Alabama gets by Kentucky. Kentucky's another one of those teams like Alabama. I watch them 3 games in a row, and I think they're like damn, they could win the national championship. And then I watch them against somebody they should beat by 20, and they lose by 15. It just makes no sense. I'm going to go Tennessee over Alabama. I think they get the job done. They secure a 1 seed overall in the tournament, and they get ready for March Madness.
Guys, I think you're really missing the boat on this Tennessee team. I think this Tennessee team, their top 6 players are upperclassmen. They're all seniors and juniors. They all play very well together. That Dalton Connect is an absolute stud. The guy can do it all. They have a true point guard that can dish the ball out. And Zakai Ziegler, they have a big that can play defense. It's averaging 2 blocks per game. Like, they have it all. I got Tennessee over Kentucky. I don't think there's games that are that close in this SEC tournament. I think Tennessee is going to roll through this tournament. I think Tennessee is going to meet Houston in the finals, depending on how the bracket plays out. My finals is already written. I'm going to write it down. If they're on the opposite sides of the bracket, I got Tennessee versus Houston in my finals.
Why you said we missed the boat? I literally just said they're going to win and secure a 1 seed.
You said there's going to be chaos in this one. You're right.
I mean, with Tennessee, and I don't even think it's their fault. Like, I just think these teams, especially in this conference, we've seen Tennessee have the tight games with Kentucky, and Kentucky's no slouch.
They
Like,
just
I'm not
lost them
saying
the other
that,
night.
but we've also seen, like, LSU really has come on out of nowhere as of late. South Carolina's kind of been, hit or miss these past few weeks. So they were looking like they could potentially be, maybe like a 5 or a 6 seed. I don't know where they ultimately end up now, but I just think the SEC has so much chaos in it that as much as I trust Tennessee in the actual tournament, I don't know if the SEC tournament is going to be something that they just go on and win.
They
That's
had
all.
7 wins in a row, and then they lost to Kentucky in an incredible basketball game. If you didn't watch it, it's almost worth a rewatch. It's Dalton Connect. Guy had 40 points. He was going off. They lost by 4 points. They scored 104 points in just the second half. It was a great basketball game. So I think that it'll be those two teams in the finals again.
And Chris, I see you in the comments. I know we haven't talked a lot of women's basketball, but I 100% think that the women's game right now, college-wise, has more stars than what the men's side does. I think there's way more recognizable players and just bona fide stars and in the women's game compared to the men's game right now. And you talk about the tournament not coming close to what the men's is. I mean, viewership wise, you're probably right there, especially even with this year them having as many stars as they do. But I do think this year those Final Four numbers might look a lot closer than they've ever had before.
I'll tell you something right now. I cannot stand Kim Mulkey. I can't take her.
Can't do it.
The comments after the South Carolina. If you guys didn't watch the South Carolina LSU game, you got to watch that game. It was at least the last 5 minutes of the game. Angel Reese pulls, I forget the girl's name, by the hair, right? And that Cardoso by the hair, and then another player on LSU takes a cheap shot at one of South Carolina's girls, and Cardoso is done with it. You could tell she was already pissed. She already got her hair pulled, and she runs over and truck sticks her. And Angel Reese, if you watch that, she walks directly to the bench and sits down.
Bailed, bro. The worst.
But
it was almost you gotta be kidding me.
So, and then Mulkey gets in there. She's like, Cardoso should walk over and push Angel that way. I don't condone violence. Cardoso would kill Angel Reese. Angel Reese is a bad woman, but come on, shut up. She's making it like those girls started. That game looked like LSU had sour grapes. South Carolina was just being more physical with them, and LSU looked like they had sour grapes because they got beat up. It is, Kim.
I agree with literally everything you said. Cardoso did take a cheap shot on Flau'jae, though. Flau'jae wasn't even looking after that whole incident happened. That's the one thing that I do somewhat disagree with. And then as far as Angel goes, they're talking about now people getting suspended for the first game of the tournament. And while that really doesn't matter because these teams are going to win whoever they're playing in that first round, I do think in that situation it is smart for Angel not to get herself involved there. But Kim's the moron.
I'll say this is a twofold thing for me. If you want to see the right way to handle that situation and the wrong way, just listen to the difference between Kim Mulkey's press conference and Dawn Staley's. Dawn Staley didn't even wait to her press conference. They got her after the game was over, and she didn't want to say anything other than apologize. Kim Mulkey said what she said. Then she got in her press conference and doubled down. I'm going to disagree with the Angel Reese thing. You can't have the bad bitch moniker and be all this and all that. And then when asked about it after the game, when you played on this horribly sprained ankle, all of a sudden it was okay to play all game. And she had a good game. It was all good to have a good game and play hard on it and pull people's hair. But then when your teammates got in a scuffle, you run to the bench. Sorry, that's a bad look for me.
All right, well, let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. I agree with you, by the way. Everything you just said.
So this week for me, it's funny that we just got done talking about Angel and how I feel like you're saying that she's kind of a hypocrite in how she's kind of going about things, especially in this one situation. Well, I got a bigger hypocrite for you, and that is another you got to be kidding me for Kyle Filipowski from the Duke Blue Devils. So for those of you that haven't seen, I even pulled up the clip here for you, and then I'll explain it afterwards.
And all of a sudden, everything opens up.
Grayson Allen.
Bro, God, I'm sorry, Control. I'm sorry.
And so Kyle Filipowski, we were just talking about him a couple weeks ago and how he after the game, the kid stormed the court, he gets run into, and he comes out afterwards and say, oh, it was 100% intentional, that, they were trying to hurt me and all this other stuff. And then a couple weeks later, you're facing your rival and you're clearly, on the ground here, and you clearly stick your foot up to try and trip the guy. Not only do you not take accountability for it, you say after the game, and I understand why he did it. I'm not dumb here, but after the game, you say, no, it wasn't intentional at all. What? You're laying on your side and you're on the ground and somebody's running past you, and right when they're running, and you stick your foot up at the exact perfect time to make sure he trips. So for me this week, Kyle Filipowski, you wanted all the sympathy a week ago, and you're talking about how it was intentional, that these kids stormed the court and how they were trying to hurt you. But then you go and do this against your rival. Makes absolutely no sense to me. So this week, Kyle.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not kidding when I say, I was literally just trying to make a list in my head real quick. Other than Ohio State, and I hate Ohio State for different reasons, just because rivalry wise, but they're not a dirty team. I don't know if I hate anybody more than Duke, across college sports. I really don't think there is. It's and then you saw the whole skirmish after the game, the North Carolina players were saying all the rich white kids, the Cameron Crazies were yelling racial stuff, and then North Carolina won. And they were getting there and they started throwing crap at him. I don't know if you can come up with a better example of entitled, rich, silver spoon kids that there is. And Duke just, they're a bunch of crybabies. I can't deal with them. I hope they lose in the first round again. But this week, I'm going to actually stay in women's college basketball because I thought this was the classless move of all classless moves. Didn't get a lot of headlines, but I think it should have. So Utah State women's basketball team got knocked out of their conference tournament. Come off the court. AD goes out of his way to tell the head coach, Kayla Ard, that she's fired, but then makes her go in and do the press conference anyway, without either announcing it, and just throws the young lady under the bus. She sits down, and of course, disappointing season. So the first question she gets asked is, what do you want to prove on for next year? How do you think you're going to rebuild and make the team better? And she goes, oh, well, I'm not going to have the chance because I just got fired and the AD makes me come in here. Two things have to happen here. Either A, you wait till she's done her press conference so you don't go and just throw her in front of the bus in front of national media. Or B, you don't make her go into the press conference if you fired her 30 seconds before she walks in there. Total classless move by Utah State. Hate to see it. She deserves better than that. I know they didn't have a great year, but you got to give the young woman a break, man. It's totally classless for me. So this week, Utah State.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's a great one, Charlie. Mine's a little personal, right? It has nothing to do with sports.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so my you gotta be kidding me this week is Spirit Airlines. Now, well, hold on. I've never taken Spirit Airlines before. Ever. Not once. I've heard all the horror stories, everything that's terrible about them. I've just avoided them like the plague. Last year, I took Frontier for the first time. There was no issue. I took a trip down to Orlando. It was inexpensive. It worked out pretty well. I'm like, all right. I booked a round trip to Los Angeles and spent 3 days out in California. I took American Airlines there, smooth. Everything went down. But the Expedia trip had Spirit on a non-connecting flight, direct flight home, 11 a.m. in the morning. I'd land 7 p.m. I mean, that's like the perfect time to fly. It's like your perfect time. You don't have to wake up too early. You don't get home too late. It's like a perfect travel day for you, right? I get a text message for 11:55 p.m. that Spirit canceled my flight. Just canceled it. So I called them up on the phone immediately, and I'm like, hey, so what are you guys doing? I need to get home tomorrow. And their response was, well, we're sorry. We had some call outs. Some people were sick, illnesses. We didn't have enough people to be able to man the plane. Okay, well, I know the rules. And if it's not weather related, you owe me 3 times my fare. So I need a $750 credit to be able to cover, I need to book a last minute flight. I have to book a flight to a different airline the next day. Like, well, you can get an airline home on Tuesday and A, B, and C. I'm like, I can't wait until Tuesday. They even offered to put me into a $99 hotel for the night, for Monday night. I'm like, that's not going to work. I need to get home tomorrow. I'm entitled to 3 times my airfare. I would prefer that. That's what I would like. The next morning, I wake up and I have to book a flight. I go to the airport and I talked to Spirit's customer service, and they said they canceled the flight due to weather. They changed everything that they said from the night before to do weather. So you didn't have to pay out the 3 times what the airfare was, and refused to give me anything, any type of credit. They just basically gave me my money back and said, oh, well, deal with it. Read the fine print. Air traffic control wouldn't let our plane fly, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason no one flies Spirit. I should give you got to be kidding me myself for even allowing myself to be put in this situation. But your customer service is brutal, awful. I had to book a flight home on JetBlue to Newark, New Jersey, and then Uber home from Newark, New Jersey, because that was the only way I was getting home at a reasonable price. It cost me an extra $500, and Spirit wants nothing to do with it. So for that, this week, Spirit Airlines and their awful customer service that lied.
You gotta be kidding me.
Sorry, I needed to get that off my chest.
All good.
We do promise that we will start being more on time. So I appreciate you guys hanging with us to past the 2-hour mark. We had a lot to get into this show, and we felt like if we cheated anything, we didn't want to cheat this show. So we were a little bit past time, but we will be back on our 2-hour scale next week. Any final thoughts, Cottrell, Bill?
I got nothing. I'm ready for March Madness to start, and I know, Gene, you already said that you'll be taking off that Thursday. I'll be watching the games as well, and I'm excited to get this thing rolling.
Same. Got a couple people hit me up for the Players Championship, which starts tomorrow. I'm going to go a little off the board here. I'm going to go with Ricky Fowler. I think he comes out of nowhere and wins the second player. So Ricky is my official pick for the Players.
I like it. Go Ricky. Thank you guys for tuning in the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Kent State's own Cleveland's own College Cottrell. That's Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally. And we are signing out.